Happy Tuesday, everybody. Opening statements for the Karen Read retrial are going on this morning. First witnesses. We're going to roast it, recap it, take a look at it. So smash that like. Hopefully you're wearing something very comfy. Grab a delicious beverage and let's get this party started.
If you like what you see, come and get it with me. I know you deserve all you want. Your heart's made of gold, but don't wait till you're old. If you want it, I get you some.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel, stand-up comedian and pop culture vulture. Joleen Lunzer here for a no offense, all offense, but with a slash of Judge Joleen. All right. Today we have Karen Read's retrial, starting with opening statements and some witnesses. So we are going to dive into that, take a look at that, give our reactions. Remember, we take a comedic look. Not everything's going to be hilarious in a schmurder trial, obviously, but this trial is just so cuckoo bananas crazy that there's so many twists and turns. And now we're on a retrial because the first trial was ended with a hung jury. So we're back again. This is on this channel, first time covering the case. So there are things I'm still learning. If you missed it, we did roast and recap the cross-examination of Trooper Michael Proctor, who is quite the problem in this case. So we're going to dive right in this morning. So if you're new to the Karen Read trial, that's okay. You'll be learning stuff along the way. We have so many people in the chat that are well-versed and watched the entire trial last summer. And there's so many things. We're going to have a lot of the same witnesses, but we also have a lot of new witnesses, a lot of new experts. And the opening statements alone show us that they're pivoting a little bit in both the prosecution and the defense. And it is very, very interesting. Okay. So smash that like if you haven't already. If you want to support the channel further, you know the drill. Sign up, become a member. I'll be gifting 5 memberships at the end of this live. So make sure you are here. And if you have a membership here on YouTube, you get exclusive emojis you can use in the chat, which I am going to be updating soon as well. And then you get bonus content, our members only lives, which I think we're going to do a members only this week. And we can kind of talk more about Karen Read and other pop culture news and Bravo World and stuff like that. And hopefully Steven will join us, maybe Jamie B. Sometimes we drop the link and it's just like a good time where we can kick back, relax, under members only. Okay. You can also send a super chat while we're live here on YouTube so I can see your comment. I'll highlight it. Or you can hit me up on the Venmo, PayPal, Cash App. You don't have to do any of those things, but if you want to, those options are there. All right, you guys. I woke up early this morning to start listening to opening statements. Now, I will say the prosecution, even though it's not Lolly, his name is Peter Brennan, right? So Brennan on the prosecution, we're going to listen to a little bit. So we're behind in the stream. Hopefully I'm streaming this through a Boston news network. So hopefully they're not going to be weird and copyright strike me. But if the live does go down, I'll make a new one and we'll figure it out. But we'll listen to a little bit of that. Then we're going to go into Alan Jackson's opening statements. And I think they're on lunch right now, or they were the last time I checked. And then we'll go into the first witness and see how far we can go. Now, I want you guys to sound off in the live chat. I want you to let me know all your hopes, thoughts, dreams, and opinions regarding this case. And I named this stream Too Many Brians and Too Many Buttdials, because there are so many Brians in this case and there are so many Buttdials. So Hamburger Pay says, too many Brians. How do you know? I was just watching The Bald and the Beautiful. Oh my gosh. Okay. So let's get started on we'll listen to a little bit of Brennan. Hank Brennan, not Frank. Hank. It's what's for dinner. Okay. Beef. It's what's for dinner. Hank Brennan. But I thought he's got to find the microphone. You got to find the microphone. Now, what I'm going to be, stopping for occasional commentary, things like that. But I'll try not to stop too egregiously. but we're going to have to do a little bit of a stopping. All right, let me get rid of this. And here we go. There's Hank. As you can see behind, we have KarenRead and her attorneys. And then you have John O'Keefe's mom is back there and some of his family. And then directly behind Karen, you can't see them right now, but you'll see her family in this very small courtroom. So let's get into it. You guys keep sounding off in the chat and give me a thumbs up as soon as you hear the audio. I might speed him up just a tinge. Okay. Okay. Sorry, Hank.
Many who are friends with Karen through John, and you'll see them clapping and happy.
Okay, he's too low. I can't. I don't think he gets any louder. It was really hard for me to hear him this morning.
She drives to his house. She makes a phone call at 12:33.
Can you guys even hear that? He needs like a lavalier lamp or a lavalier lamp. He needs a mic, a mic, something like that. Okay. Hi, Steven. Steven, you want to do a members only this week? Let me know what day you're available. Yeah, the volume's a little too low. So I think I'm just going to skip ahead of the prosecution. We'll be able to like read a breakdown of it. If you haven't listened to it on your own, definitely go listen to it, but make sure you can turn the volume up. And really, if this was my own recording, I could go in and play with the volume, but since it's not, there's nothing I can really do. Let's see.
With John O'Keefe. 2020.
I feel like they should have had a woman prosecutor. That would have piqued my interest. Okay, but this was one interesting thing in the prosecution's opening statement. We know that they are going to be using, which obviously they didn't use in the first trial because it didn't exist, Karen's own words, since she's, as far as we know, not testifying and did not testify in the first trial. So her own words in these documentaries that she was interviewed for, whether it be Dateline, whether it be Body in the Snow, I think was the HBO Max. There was an ID channel. There's been lots of documentaries. So the prosecution is going to attempt to use Karen's own words in these interviews. And this is one of them that they show that they're going to use.
Again, she hit Mr. O'Keefe with a car.
So that they can prove or convince the jury that she hit Mr. O'Keefe with the car. And that's what ultimately killed him, that and being left out in the elements. But obviously the defense has a very different story and their experts have a very different story and the coroner has a very different story. So, okay, we're here.
She knew he was injured. She left him behind.
It's like he's whispering.
This case will come down to the science and the data.
He said, this case will come down to the science and the data, but the science and the data has told us that he did not die from being hit by a car and the physics. But okay, here we are.
Science and the data, the cell phone is the best of the stories. It doesn't suffer from intoxication. It doesn't suffer from memory loss. It doesn't suffer from emotion, pride, or prejudice.
I know it's low.
Facts, it is data. And that facts and data.
Get to the mic, Brennan.
To the truth in this case. But after Ms. Reed was charged, she began what you'll learn as a campaign.
Sounds good, Stephen.
Campaign to make public statements.
Text me.
2020, Nightline, Fox 25.
Okay, you know you're low when a guy can cough louder than the prosecution can give their opening statements. I mean, this is just, I don't understand. Once we hear Alan Jackson, it is like in stereo. And this guy's like, I'm going to tell you that Karen Read is guilty.
A documentary. And we had an opportunity to get many of the statements in the footage, and we're going to show much of it.
I can't hear you. I'm trying to get ahead, skip ahead right before Alan Jackson comes up with his opening statements for the defense and show the video. Okay, here's the video.
I mean, I didn't think I hit him, but could I have clipped him? Could I have tagged him in the knee? He didn't look mortally wounded as far as I could see. Could I have done something that knocked him out and his drunkenness and in the cold didn't come to again?
Even the audio that they're providing, I don't know if it's this news network or what, but this is her Dateline interview. of her initial thoughts, like seeing John O'Keefe in the snow when she went back that morning and found him in Brian Albert's front yard at the party she dropped him off at and thought he went inside. And then she's like, oh my God, what happened? And so this is her like speculating all these things, like, did a snowplow hit him? Could I have hit him? Could I have clipped him? And so the prosecution definitely wants to take this information or this interview and make it seem like, Karen Read is almost admitting that I guess I could have hit him because she was so drunk.
This would have been the moment you brought him off the park.
Yeah, would have had to.
With no respect for time. This man who helped a lifetime
Okay,
ago
so
was left at the corner of that yard, left to die with
So they believe, the prosecution wants the jury to believe that that John O'Keefe was left in the corner of that yard to die from Karen Read hitting him or clipping him with her car.
the facts, the data, and the evidence.
And he's saying the facts, the data, and the evidence,
In the defendant's own words.
and the defendant's own words,
From everything you've already.
something, 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 whisper, whisper, whisper Winnie. So now Alan Jackson's going to get up and he's going to be like, excuse me, I'm going to fix this audio. I mean, these prosecutors, okay, the Commonwealth prosecute, if we can just get a little more like pizzazz show, I mean, something, they can't even hear you.
Could I have just a moment to readjust?
Sure, the court officers will be kind enough to help you.
Alan's like, I need just a moment. I'm from LA, okay, to readjust.
There
the thing.
was.
Okay, now we're going to get it in stereo and audio, and let's listen to Alan Jackson with his opening statements in the retrial of his client, Karen Read.
Will establish above everything else. May I, Your Honor? The evidence in this case will establish above everything else 3 points. There was no collision with John O'Keefe. There was no collision. There was no collision.
There was no collision.
John O'Keefe did not die from being hit by a vehicle. Period.
Period.
The facts will show that. The evidence will show that. The data will show that. The science will show that. And the experts will tell you that. You'll learn that the Commonwealth has pinned its entire case on a brazen and a flawed assertion that is untethered, unconnected to the facts and to the evidence. And their assertion is contrary to science.
Oh,
Because at the end of the day, folks, there was no collision with John O'Keefe. So how did we end up here? How does Karen Read end up sitting in that chair on trial for an event that literally never happened?
oh, damn.
Well, the evidence is going to explain it. And it can be summed up in the following text message at the very beginning of this investigation.
Oh, Proctor.
A text message of a now fired Massachusetts State Police officer named Michael Proctor.
Ooh, we
He was
just
the lead
roasted him.
investigator on this case. And he was talking about a fellow officer, a fellow cop who owned the property where John O'Keefe's body was found. Text message with a buddy. Question, is the homeowner going to catch any shit?
Oh,
Answer, nope. He's a Boston cop too.
oh, damn. Oh, damn.
That quote defines the lack of integrity of the Commonwealth's entire case, its entire investigation, and this prosecution. During the course of this trial, you'll learn much more about Mr. Proctor, why he said that, and what it really means. What you'll see and hear in this courtroom in the coming weeks is not just a story of a tragic loss. And make no mistake, John O'Keefe's death is and was a tragic loss.
And he deserves justice.
But the story you'll hear is about an investigation that was riddled with errors from the beginning, a rush to judgment, conflicted and corrupted from the start, corrupted by bias, corrupted by incompetence, and corrupted by deceit. Finally, it was corrupted by a deliberate effort to avoid and to cover up the very truth that you are seeking. You'll find when you hear the evidence that the Commonwealth's case is the literal definition of reasonable doubt. They won't be able to talk their way out of it. They won't be able to explain their way out of it. They won't be able to excuse their way out of it. And they can't meet their extreme burden of proof, which the court will tell you is beyond any and all reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty.
Get him, Alan. Objection. You're too good.
Found John O'Keefe dead on the front lawn of Boston police officer Brian Albert at 6 a.m. on January 29th, 2022. Picture the scene. Blood-curdling screams, ambulances, emergency lights on, fire engines, ladder trucks, paramedics, patrol vehicles, patrol cruisers, police officers, first responders, firefighters, all swarming all over Brian Albert's lawn, literally feet under his bedroom window. Yet Brian Albert, a sworn peace officer, a first responder himself, never came outside. Never went outside to see what the chaos was about, never went outside to see if he could assist a man in need, never walked outside his house to see if he could help a fallen fellow officer on his own front lawn.
Damn.
More shockingly, you'll learn that lead investigator for the Massachusetts police, Michael Proctor, never set foot inside Brian Albert's house that day. Never engaged in any investigation inside that house that day, even though a party with much alcohol had just occurred in that house, and even though a Boston police officer was found dead or dying just mere feet from the front door on that lawn. He never secured the crime scene, never separated and secured witnesses. He never properly collected evidence. He never secured the evidence. He never searched for signs of a struggle inside or outside the home.
He's a
He
loser.
never properly canvassed the neighborhood. Michael Proctor never did any of these things, even though fellow officers of Michael Proctor's, actually mentioned, in their words, not mine, that it looked like John O'Keefe may have been, quote, in a fight. You'll have questions about that conduct. During the course of this trial, you'll find that the Commonwealth will not have answers. You'll see from the evidence in this case that this case carries a malignancy, one that is spread through the investigation, it's spread through the prosecution from the very start, from the jump. A cancer that cannot be cut out, a cancer that cannot be cured. And that cancer has a name. His name is Michael Proctor.
Oh, damn. Right then I was like, oh my God, Alan Jackson bringing it right away, saying there is a cancer in this case. There is a super biased, unprofessional piece of shit lead investigator who's now been fired. And he is the cancer of all of this. He did not do his job. And that is why Karen Read sits here today. And that is why John O'Keefe is not getting the justice he deserves, that he and his family deserve. Because Michael Proctor he called him the cancer. But I mean, that's what he is. Oh, Alan Jackson's starting fire. Oh my gosh. Just oof. Oof. Oh my goodness.
John's boyfriend, Karen Read, killed him.
Whew. Poopy Proctor. Get him, Alan. Get him. So let's keep going with Alan. Alan was just on fire. I mean, the difference, obviously, night and day, because we can actually hear what he's saying compared to Brennan. And it's like, you didn't think it could get worse than Lolly and, lulling you to sleep, but here we are.
Now, you didn't hear his name in the prosecution's opening statement. Not once.
Nope.
I suspect that was probably by design. But make no mistake about it. The evidence will show in this case that Michael Proctor is the very definition of the Commonwealth's case. And he's also their Achilles heel.
Oof.
He was the lead investigator on the case officer, the architect of the entire prosecution. You'll learn there's not a single part of this case, folks, not a single part that he didn't touch, that he didn't direct, that he didn't orchestrate personally. Every single bit of it has his fingerprints on it. You'll learn that Michael Proctor was a longtime family friend of the Alberts.
Damn.
And he's been disgraced by his own agency, not by us, by the Massachusetts State Police. Investigated, suspended, and fired.
Fired.
The evidence will show that Massachusetts State Police found him guilty, found Michael Proctor guilty of bringing dishonor to the department for his conduct, not in some other case, not in some tangential case, in this case.
Oh, that's so damning.
The investigation of KarenRead.
That's crazy.
Conduct that included bias in favor of his friends, the all-powerful Albert family, and bias against my client, Miss Reed, the outsider.
Mm.
Do you have any idea how hard it is for a state trooper to get fired?
Oh.
The evidence is going to show that Michael Proctor earned it. Every bit of it.
Damn.
You'll hear that within hours of a Boston police officer being found dead on Brian Albert's lawn, Michael Proctor, the lead investigator, who had investigated exactly nothing up to this point, right at the beginning, made an early pronouncement that Brian Albert himself was not going to, quote, catch any shit, end quote. And that was for one reason and one reason only. He's a Boston cop. The evidence will show that Michael Proctor made this statement in a text conversation with his high school buddies.
Ugh.
A text he never thought would see the light of day, certainly never thought we would get a hold of.
Hell no.
And when he thought no one was looking, he actually said the quiet part out loud. He's a cop too. We'll give him a pass.
This is such a good opening statement. Like this is like a movie script. But the sad truth is what he's saying, this is what we're going to see. If you watch the first trial, the first testimony of Michael Proctor, this is him texting his high school buddies. Oh my God. This is my second time listening to this and I'm still like goosebumpies. This is crazy. The injustice on such a level. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Get a hold of. And when he thought no one was looking, he actually said the quiet.
Saying the quiet part out loud. Yeah, he did. He was like, don't worry about it. She's got a leaky balloon knot. Where's the nudes? He's a cop. He's fine. Thank you, Upon the Wire, for becoming a YouTube member. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Part out loud. He's a cop too. We'll give him a pass.
Right out there.
You'll learn that
Gate.
Michael Proctor's world rank has its privileges. And the evidence will show that's privileges that you don't get and I don't get.
Hell no.
But apparently a Boston police officer, Brian Albert, and his friends, they do get. You'll learn that in Michael Proctor's world, he didn't care about finding the truth. In his world, his priority was to protect the brotherhood, to protect that blue wall, to protect his friends who were at the Albert's house that night.
Thank you, Jippity.
I want to take a step back, if I could, and spend the next few minutes talking a little bit more detail about what the actual facts in this case will show,
Right,
not
Krista?
based on speculation, not based on surmise, not based on guesswork or conjecture, but the actual true facts that you will learn through the course of this trial. On January 28th, 2022, it was a Friday night. John and Karen had made plans to meet up with friends for drinks. It was a happy and normal night for them. They were affectionate, they were loving, they were in good spirits, nothing out of the ordinary. They started at a local watering hole called C.F. McCarthy's. You've heard that name before and you'll hear it again. And eventually they made their way over to the Waterfall Bar and Grill, another bar where they ended up. When they got to the Waterfall Bar and Grill, the Albert family was already there, already heavily drinking. You'll learn that this was no ordinary family, the Alberts. The Albert family was a well-known Canton family. Some might even describe them as a very powerful Canton family. Brian Albert was there at the waterfall. You'll hear that he's a longtime Boston police officer. His wife, Nicole Albert, was there with him. His brother, Chris Albert, a powerful Canton politician. He sits on the select board. The select board actually governs the police department, the Canton PD. He was there. His wife, Julie Albert, was there. Their daughter, Caitlin Albert, was there. His sister-in-law, Jennifer McCabe, was there.
Ooh,
Her
Jen.
husband, Matt McCabe, was also there. They were all there drinking before John and before Karen ever arrived. You'll learn that a man by the name of Brian Higgins, also a law enforcement officer and longtime friend, longtime pal of Brian Albert, he was also there. And the two of them, the two Bryans, had been drinking most of the night together.
Too many Bryans.
You'll see video footage from the waterfall, which will show you that Karen and John were happy. They were affectionate. They were caring. They were loving. Just business as usual. out on a date on a Friday night. But that exact same video footage which lead investigator Michael Proctor plainly chose to ignore that video footage. It paints a very different picture of Brian Higgins. You'll learn that Higgins had romantic designs for Karen.
Oh,
That becomes important. Brian Higgins had engaged Karen in flirtatious texts, but days earlier, she had put a stop to it. She had ghosted him, in common parlance. In other words,
ghosted.
just ignored him. The evidence will show that the first time he saw her and was in her presence after being rejected by her was when she walked into the Waterfall Bar and Grill along with her boyfriend, John O'Keefe. At 11:58 p.m., just minutes before John ultimately arrived at the Albert residence, you'll see a video at the Waterfall of an unsettling interaction, troubling interaction between Brian Higgins and John O'Keefe.
Oof.
And unlike the lead investigator, Michael Proctor, in this case, you won't ignore that evidence.
Oh,
As
shit.
the bar was closing around 12 midnight, the Alberts invited everybody back to their house for a get-together to just keep the night going. And you'll learn that Karen and John ultimately pulled up to the house.
Silly
They got out of the SUV to make sure they had the right address. You see, neither John nor Karen had ever been to 34 Fairview. They weren't even sure they were at the right address. And the evidence will establish that John got out of the SUV and went into the house. Let me say that again.
Ooh.
The facts unequivocally,
Oh.
the data, the science, the witnesses will all unequivocally establish that John O'Keefe went
Oh, we are unequivocally establishing that he went in the house in the retrial. Ooh.
into the Albert home that night.
Because the whole case with the prosecution in the Commonwealth is that he never went in. And now they're saying, oh no, we're going to show you that he went in. Not only people are going to say it, but the physics.
Eyewitnesses and forensic data will establish that fact. When he didn't come back out, you'll learn that Karen grew increasingly frustrated. She got upset. She was left alone in a car in the cold, in the middle of the night, with the car idling. John had gone into the house. She expected him to come right back out. And when he didn't, seconds turned into minutes, and minutes started to clock away. She left John a voicemail, then another voicemail, voicemail after voicemail after voicemail, text messages. But he was unresponsive. He didn't pick up a single call. He didn't respond to a single text. The longer he didn't respond, the more upset she got. The Commonwealth will intimate, as they already have in their opening statement, that these voicemails are evidence that the two were fighting. The actual evidence in this case, however, will show the exact opposite. You'll hear that Karen was very agitated. You'll hear some voicemails where she's swearing. You'll hear voicemails where she calls him names.
Yeah, and those are voicemails that he's got to address, because me and my husband still, because I had him watch The Body in the Snow, the Max show, where, you know, you'll hear Karen go, John, you fucking pivot, you fucking pivot. So we'll just like regularly call each other, you pivot. So they got to address that here. Like, clearly she's upset. You know, he was supposed to go in and see, is there a party here? We've never been here. We don't know. Is this the right place? And then he doesn't come back out. And so she heads home.
There's name calling. But you'll also hear the context of those voicemails. And every single one of them, every single one of those voicemails was left for John after he failed to come back out of the house, after he failed to respond to her voicemails and to her texts. Karen believed John had just left her sitting there, grabbed a beer, was partying with his friends. The evidence will actually show that John and Karen never had a crossword, not a single crossword that entire evening before he left that SUV and went inside the house. And you will learn what Karen had absolutely no way of knowing at the time. It wasn't that he wouldn't respond to her. It's that he couldn't respond to her. And the evidence will show you why. Let's talk about that. We'll introduce you to a doctor named Elizabeth Lopesada, a renowned forensic pathologist, a medical examiner, and a professor at Brown University.
Hi, hype man. You fucking
She will
pivot.
tell you that the injury to the back of John's head, first of all, was immediately incapacitating. And that has meaning. At the moment he suffered that fatal head injury, he couldn't walk, talk, grab his phone, cry for help, nothing. He was completely incapacitated, completely unconscious from the moment he suffered that injury.
Oh, damn.
He was completely still and incapable of interacting with anyone or anything. But the doctor will tell you something more, and just as important.
Chill.
She'll tell you that John O'Keefe did not suffer from hypothermia, as
Oh.
the Commonwealth will undoubtedly allege.
Ooh.
His body showed no signs of it. No frostbite,
Okay.
no cold-induced injuries to his organs, no damage based on cold or frost. Ladies and gentlemen, the scientific evidence and the medical evidence will establish that John O'Keefe had to be injured somewhere else,
Oh, shit.
somewhere warmer, and his body had to have been moved out into the cold.
In the house.
And that's where, ultimately at 6 a.m., Karen found him the next morning. You will learn that John did not have a single injury consistent with being hit by a car. Let me say that again.
What?
The evidence will
This is the craziest part, is the coroner, like so many experts agree that what the prosecution is claiming of how he died and his injuries it doesn't add up.
establish that John did not suffer a single injury on his body consistent with having been hit by a car.
Not a single injury?
Not one. You'll learn that John's torso, his ribs, his chest, his arms, his hips, his legs, his knees, his ankles, his feet, all of them, no broken bones, no fractures, no contusions, no torn ligaments, no internal injuries, not even a bruise. Nothing consistent with a car accident, despite the Commonwealth's contention that he was slammed into by a 6,000-pound SUV. Not a bruise. Dr. Laposada will tell you with medical certainty.
Okay, it's kind of getting, I don't know why. Let me close some windows here. Maybe my computer's like, girl, we're working overtime. Because it seems like his lips are not aligning with what he's actually saying here. All right, let me close this, and we're back. All right, let's try this again.
John was not a bruise.
Okay, let me see where we're at. 308. Let me just reload it, guys.
Get down for me, sir.
Sure. Did you tell Trooper Proctor on February?
All right.
He did. You'll learn that Brian, she had put a stop to it. She had ghosted it. Found Deborah in good spirits. In other words, just ignored him to respond to her voicemails and to her texts. Karen believed John had just left her sitting there, grabbed a beer, was partying with his friends before he left that SUV and went inside the house. It's that he couldn't respond to her. And the evidence will show you why. Let's talk about that. We'll introduce you to a doctor named Elizabeth Laposada, a renowned forensic pathologist, a medical examiner, and a professor at Brown University. She will tell you that the injury to the back of John's head, first of all, was immediately incapacitating. And that has meaning. At the moment he suffered that fatal head injury, he couldn't walk, talk, grab his phone, cry for help, nothing. He was completely incapacitated, completely unconscious from the moment he suffered that injury. He was completely still and incapable of interacting with anyone or anything. But the doctor will tell you something more, and just as important. She'll tell you that John O'Keefe did not suffer from hypothermia, as the Commonwealth will undoubtedly allege. His body showed no signs of it. No frostbite, no cold-induced injuries to his organs, no damage based on cold or frost. Ladies and gentlemen, the scientific evidence and the medical evidence will establish that John O'Keefe had to be injured somewhere else.
So telling, Otter.
And his body had to have been moved.
They're saying in the house, in the house, in the house, in the house.
And that's where, ultimately at 6 a.m., Karen found him the next morning. You will learn that John did not have a single injury consistent with being hit by a car. Let me say that again. the evidence will establish that John did not suffer a single injury on his body consistent with having been hit by a car. Not one. You'll learn that John's torso, his ribs, his chest, his arms, his hips, his legs, his knees, his ankles, his feet, all of them, no broken bones, no fractures, no contusions, no torn ligaments, no internal injuries, not even a bruise.
That's crazy.
Nothing consistent with a car accident, despite the Commonwealth's contention that he was slammed into by a 6,000-pound SUV. Not a bruise. Dr. LaPosada will tell you with medical certainty that John was not. He could not have been struck by a vehicle. Therefore, as I said, there was no collision.
No
She
collision.
will tell you that the pattern
Just
of abrasions
collusion.
on John's right arm, the pattern of abrasions you see over my left shoulder, they're not the result of being struck by a car or a taillight. You'll take one look at these injuries and you'll agree with Dr. LaPosada. The evidence will show that these injuries are from an animal, like a large dog, like the large dog that was inside the Albert house that night. You'll learn that Brian Albert has actually admitted that his large dog, the family dog, is, quote, not good with strangers. And of course, John, never having been to the house before, was a stranger that night. You'll also learn that oddly, very oddly, after having their family pet for 7 years, a short time after this incident, the Alberts got rid of that dog.
That's so sus.
Called it rehoming her.
Oh, poor doggy.
But she was gone. Dr. LaPosada will also tell you that the injury to John's head was not the result of falling backward onto a flat lawn, cold or otherwise. Rather, Dr. LaPosada will tell you with medical certainty that the injury pattern to his scalp was produced by an impact from a raised or ledged surface.
Yeah, they got rid of the dog.
surface that does not exist on Brian Albert's front lawn where John was found. The medical evidence will establish no hypothermia, no injuries from a car strike, no collision with a motor vehicle.
Everything they're saying.
And forensic analysis of John's cell phone, Mr. Brennan mentioned that in his opening statement. The Commonwealth's own expert will ultimately support the exact facts that I just told you, including the temperature data. John O'Keefe was injured someplace warmer, and he was moved. That alone is reasonable doubt, but there's much more.
Damn,
We'll
Alan.
also learn that there were many people at that after-hours gathering at Brian Albert's house who would have left by the front door just feet from where John O'Keefe's body would have ultimately been had he actually been there right after 12:30 a.m., which is what the Commonwealth's claim is. There were nearly a dozen people who walked out that front door directly adjacent to the precise spot where John O'Keefe would have been lying. Not a single person, not one, not a single person saw a 6'2", 216-pound man laying sprawled in the front lawn in dark clothing on a light white dusting of snow. Not one. Then the evidence will also show that every one of those same people drove by that same spot, not walked by it, drove by it to leave the house, and still not one of them saw John laying in the yard when they left between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. in the morning. But you know who else you'll find never saw a body on that lawn? The snowplow driver, a completely independent witness charged with plowing the streets in Canton that night. You'll hear that Michael Proctor, oh, he's not done yet, Mr. Proctor. You'll hear that Michael Proctor wrote a report where he claimed that Fairview had not been plowed that night. You'll learn that that was completely false. That was a lie. Michael Proctor did not want any more witnesses. He didn't want the truth. And he falsely claimed that the road was never plowed. You'll learn that he wouldn't look for the plow driver, but we did. And we found, and we'll introduce you to, Brian Loughran. He plowed Fairview that night, and what he's going to tell you is that there was no body on that lawn at 2:30 in the morning. You'll learn that Brian Loughran passed by 34 Fairview, traveling right next to Brian Albert's front yard, and at 2:30 a.m., John O'Keefe was not there. But you'll see that the plow driver also provides some other troubling information, troubling testimony for the Commonwealth. You'll learn that after making that pass at 2:30 a.m., he showed up with his plow an hour later. He stopped at the entrance of Fairview. He was looking up Fairview to decide whether or not to plow it, but he saw an obstruction. At 3:30 a.m., he looked down the street, and in the very spot precisely where Karen would later find John's body laying at 6 a.m.,
This is interesting.
there was a car parked in front of it, a Ford Edge. You're going to ask yourself, who's moving a car at 3:30 in the morning into a blizzard on the side of the road? You'll learn that Michael Proctor, the lead investigator, intentionally ignored this fact as well. He did no investigation to find out who owned a Ford Edge, but again, we did. And the evidence will establish that Ford Edge happens to be a favorite model of the Albert family. More than one Albert owned a Ford Edge at the time. You'll learn that those facts will add to the mounting and the overwhelming evidence that there was no collision and John O'Keefe's body was moved onto that lawn. You'll find that this is yet additional reasonable doubt in the case. You'll be introduced to science and physics, even from the Commonwealth's own experts. That science will establish that Karen Read's SUV was not damaged by hitting a pedestrian, and conversely, John O'Keefe's injuries did not come from being struck by a vehicle. The Commonwealth mentioned triggering events, but what you'll actually learn from the experts, some of them the Commonwealth's own experts, is that a triggering event is not evidence of an accident. It does not evidence a collision. That's why we're here, a collision. And there's no evidence of one, zero.
Crazy.
You'll also find that those exact sort of triggering events that the Commonwealth will rely on are relatively commonplace on Karen's SUV, and none of them are associated with a claim of a collision. Folks, the science will not lie, and the physics cannot lie. And that science will tell you with certainty there was no collision with John O'Keefe. You'll add that to that rising mountain of reasonable doubt. I want to take you back to the night in question, January 29th, for just a few minutes. Remember, Karen had gone home after dropping off John and John walking to the house. While Karen was asleep at home with John's 13-year-old niece, what were the people who had been at Brian Albert's house that night? What were they doing?
All right, let me take a quick little break to recognize Indiana Girl Jules. Super chat. Thank you, Indiana Girl Jules. So sorry I'm late. I watched this earlier and he nailed this opening statement. Finished your last live with Michael Proctor. And if that man says, I don't recall one more time, right? I don't recall. He's Oliver Northing and we don't like it. This next part, I love the way that Alan Jackson lays this out of while Karen left the Alberts after, she said that John O'Keefe was supposed to have went inside, see if the party was going on. He didn't come back out. She left, upset, went home, went to sleep, called him a bunch of times. But while she was at his house, what did everyone else in the Alberts home who was at this party, what did they do during this time? And the way Alan Jackson lays this out is like, holy shit, they were doing a lot. So let's take a listen. Smash that like if you haven't already.
While Karen was asleep at home with John's 13-year-old niece, what were the people who had been at Brian Albert's house that night? What were they doing? While she slept, what you'll find and what the evidence will show is that they were extremely busy. You'll learn that after a long night of heavy drinking, Brian Higgins left the Albert residence, but he didn't drive home. Rather, he drove over to the Canton Police Department, where he kept an office at about 1:25 a.m. Not a Canton police officer, but he kept an office there.
Weird.
Why go back to his office at 1:25 a.m.? Why go back to the Canton Police Department at 1:25 in the morning on the night of a blizzard? You'll learn that while there, Higgins made a call at 1:30 a.m. Higgins will later deny that he made that call. You'll find that curious. And his explanation for that late night visit to Canton PD, you'll find that it changes nearly every time he's asked about it.
Oh.
You'll learn that after everyone left Brian Albert's house, Brian Albert actually claimed he had no contact with anybody else except his wife. No contact. Until he woke up the next morning. So he says. Then you'll learn that that too is a complete lie.
Damn.
His phone records established that he placed a call to none other than Brian Higgins at 2:22 a.m. shortly after Higgins completed that late night visit over to Canton PD. You'll wonder, what did they possibly need to talk about at 2:22 a.m. that night?
Question.
The evidence will establish that Brian Albert called Brian Higgins first. Brian Albert then disconnected that call when Higgins didn't answer it. Seconds later, Brian Higgins returned the call. Brian Albert then did answer that call. They spoke for 22 full seconds. had a conversation, then they both hung up their respective phones. You'll learn that when they were asked about these calls and conversations, both Brian Albert and Brian Higgins lied about it. Both of them. They said they never had a call with each other. But then ultimately, when they were confronted with their own cell phone records and they could no longer deny the calls, they were asked independently, explain yourself. And they both came up with the exact same explanation. A butt dial. The evidence will make you question, why did Albert and Higgins speak at 2:22 a.m.? And why did they both try to cover up that phone call? You'll also learn after this incident and within days of one another, both Brian Higgins and Brian Albert, both police officers, both trained investigators, got rid of their phones.
Oh,
Both of them.
weird.
And what else you'll learn, Brian Albert got rid of? Shortly after this incident, Brian Albert got rid of his house.
What
The whole thing.
You guys, that's the phones, the dog, the house. Gets rid of all of it.
Brian Albert got rid of. Shortly after this incident, Brian Albert got rid of his house. The whole thing. Just
Don't
sold it.
erase it all.
His childhood home, a home that had been in the Albert family for generations. He literally sold it mere months after this incident. Dog rehomed, phones destroyed, house sold. You'll learn that all these things happened shortly after the incident where John O'Keefe was found unresponsive and dying in Brian Albert's front lawn. And you'll also learn that Michael Proctor looked the other way. He did not investigate any of what I'm telling you.
He looked harder for
Selected
nudes.
Karen Read from the start. And he ignored everything and everyone else. Let's get back to what was happening with the others while Karen slept. What you'll learn during this trial is that Brian Albert's sister-in-law, you've heard her name before, Jennifer McCabe, she was at the waterfall that night and she was over at the Alberts' house that evening as well. She left the after-hours gathering about 2 a.m., a little before 2 a.m., got home around 2 a.m. And you'll learn that according to the Commonwealth's own evidence from a forensic software program called Physical Analyzer made by Celebrite, it's considered the gold standard for forensic tools. You'll learn that a Google search was discovered on Jennifer McCabe's phone. A Google search that Michael Proctor and his investigators never revealed to us, but we found anyway. A Google search that was time-stamped, according to their own data, at 2:27 a.m.
Oh, Jen McCabe.
5 minutes after that 2:22 a.m. call that Higgins and Albert denied having. And that Google search on Jennifer McCabe's phone read, Hoslong to die in cold.
Hoslong.
Hoslong to die in cold. Now, she misspelled the first word. Hos is supposed to be how, but the meaning's the same. How long does it take to die in the cold?
Oof.
Time-stamped 2:27. And then that search was also noted by the same Celebrite program as having been deleted. The evidence will force you to ask, why is there a search on her phone? Why is it logged at 2:27 a.m.? When the Commonwealth claims that she first learned of John's death and where his body was hours later at 6 a.m. So what you'll learn is that while Karen slept, here's what was actually happening by some other very busy bees.
Oh, the busy bees.
1:25 a.m., Brian Higgins makes an unexpected visit
Put your
to Canton PD.
bees in the
1:30
chat.
a.m., he makes a phone call that he later denies ever making. At 2:22 a.m., Brian
Okay,
Higgins
this
and
is-
Brian Albert talk. They both deny and lie.
This is important. Laying out the times and all that. Put your bees in the chat, not only for our friend Busy Blue, but for the busy bees that Alan Jackson is highlighting here.
Karen slept. Here's what was actually happening
Here's what's
by
happening.
some other very busy bees.
Timeline.
1:25 a.m., Brian Higgins makes an unexpected visit to Canton PD. 1:30 a.m., he makes a phone call that he later denies ever making. At 2:22 a.m., Brian Higgins and Brian Albert talk. They both deny and lie about having made that phone call. 2:27 a.m., 5 minutes later, a Google search appears on Jennifer McCabe's phone, Hoslong to die in cold, hours before John's body was ever discovered. A Google search she denies making, and that she later, or at least it was later logged as deleted. Meanwhile, at 2:30 a.m., the plow driver confirms that O'Keefe's body was not on the lawn of Brian Albert's house, not at 2:30 in the morning. And at 3:30 in the morning, that area was obstructed by a Ford Edge like the one the Albert family liked to own. The evidence will show in the meantime, Karen dozed in and out of a fitful sleep for the rest of the night, only to awaken just before 5 a.m. And that's when she realized, in a panic, John had never come home. And you'll see, it wasn't like John to not come home. That morning, you'll see and hear evidence that Karen's emotions had morphed. It'd gone from frustration and anger, which you'll hear in the voicemails, to abject fear. Fear that something bad had happened. The evidence will establish by this time.
He's definitely getting the jury ready to hear the voicemails from Karen. Because when you first hear it and given just the story from the prosecution, you're like, oh, damn. Because she was like, I fucking hate you, John. Where are you, you pervert? I'm here with your niece and your nephew, you fucking pervert. I fucking hate you. And then you're just like, whoa. So when you just hear it with the prosecution story, you're like, oh, jeez, what's going on here? So he's like, you're going to hear this, but
His emotions had morphed. It'd gone from frustration and anger, which you'll hear in the voicemails, to abject fear. Fear that something bad had happened. The evidence will establish by this time Karen was panic-stricken. She had a feeling something was very, very wrong. She was unable to get a hold of John. Karen went to go look for him. She got in her Lexus and she backed up to leave her garage at One Meadows. You'll hear a lot about that address, One Meadows. That was John's house where Karen was staying. She backed out of the garage, and during the course of the trial, you'll hear that she actually struck another car with that right rear taillight. During the course of this trial, the Commonwealth is going to desperately claim that Karen Read's taillight was actually damaged by hitting John O'Keefe. They'll have no evidence of it, mind you. None.
oh, damn.
They'll make the claim.
Yeah, they will.
We'll show you a video of exactly how that taillight was originally damaged, or exactly what happened at 5:07 in the morning.
They got the ring
Facts
cam
will show that it
footage.
was damaged in John's own driveway at 5:07 when Karen backed up and made contact with another car in the driveway. This is 5 hours after she dropped John off and he went into the Albert residence. As a result, the taillight was minimally cracked, but it wasn't completely shattered or damaged or broken. And that's the condition of the SUV when Michael Proctor got a hold of it. That becomes important. You'll hear from an independent police officer, an eyewitness to the damage on that SUV, someone not connected to Michael Proctor or under his control. And he'll tell you that he saw the taillight damaged before it was in Michael Proctor's possession, but it was not completely shattered. And you won't have to speculate how that taillight got cracked originally. You'll see it for yourself. It's on video. You'll learn that part of the reason that Karen's Lexus hit that car at One Meadows is because she backed out looking for him at a time when she was absolutely panic-stricken and grief-stricken. Where was John? Why hadn't he come home? What had happened to him? Is he hurt? Is he passed out somewhere? Her mind was reeling. The evidence will establish she wasn't giving anything away. Everything was on the table. What could have happened to John? You'll learn that when she woke up and he still wasn't home, she was just racking her brain for what could have happened to him. And she was worried about possibly the worst. He had gotten out of the car. He'd walked to the house. She was confused. And later, when she found him at 6 a.m. on the lawn, where she last saw him going toward the house, her mind started reeling, oh my God, did a plow hit him? Did I hit him? Could I have hit him? What could have happened to him? And that video clip that you saw, out of context, when she said the words, he did not look like he was mortally wounded, she's not talking about at midnight. She's talking about at 6 a.m. when she found him. That's what she was talking about. Your job will be to make sure that the evidence isn't presented to you too cute by half.
Too cute by half. Too cute by half.
She was saying all those things. Did a plow hit him? Could I have hit him? Did I hit him? She was saying that to herself and to other people. And the Commonwealth, very obviously, will try to seize on that panic and twist this.
Okay, I've never heard that phrase before, but when I look it up, too cute by half is an idiom that means something is excessively cute or sweet, often to the point of being insincere or annoying. It suggests the cuteness is overdone or artificial. For example, someone might describe a child's excessive politeness as too cute by half. I still don't really get it. If someone, okay, too cute by half if someone is too clever by half. They are very clever and they show their cleverness in a way that annoys other people. His many admirers describe him as clever. His enemies as too clever by half. Okay.
Be to make sure that the evidence isn't presented to you too cute by half. She was saying all those things. Did a plow hit him? Could I have hit him? Did I hit him? She was saying that to herself and to other people. And the Commonwealth, very obviously, will try to seize on that panic and twist this into some admission. But here's the actual truth. That's not a confession. Could I have hit him? Did I hit him? Could a plow have hit him? That's a person trying to make sense of an unexplainable circumstance, a natural concern of a bereaved significant other, a woman desperately trying to piece together what could have happened on this tragic night. John didn't come home. And the evidence will show that Karen Read never said, I hit him. Never. Not in the background of the 911 recording, not on any dash cam video, not on any audio, not on any police body cam, not to a first responder. It's never mentioned in a single report. It's never reported in a single report from January 29th, not by one person, because it never happened. The evidence will show that the evidence will show that there were at least 13 members of law enforcement or first responders and 2 civilian witnesses that were intently focused on what was happening at that scene. They were all over the lawn. They were all over Karen. Officer Surratt.
Because remember, in the first trial, the prosecution, you had Jen McCabe, you had multiple people coming up going, she said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. And then we get the body cam footage and she never said, I hit him, I hit him. And then you have the first responders there going, well, I don't know if I don't think I ever heard her say that. But it seemed like everyone was on the same page, for lack of a better term, to be like, she said, I hit him, I hit him. And you're like, oh, that is damning. And then there's the police cam and you don't hear her say that.
Mullaney, Good, Lank, EMT Nuttall, Flamati, Kelly, Walsh, Woodbury, Whitley, Becker, Robery, McLaughlin, Carrie Roberts, Jennifer McCabe. They were all there watching and listening. On January 29th, when John O'Keefe was found, not one first responder reported having heard Karen Read say the words, I hit him. Not one. Not one civilian reported having heard Karen Read say, I hit him. The facts will show that the first time this improved statement was ever claimed to have been made was some 24 hours later by a single EMT in an interview. Now listen to this. In an interview coordinated by a Canton police detective named Kevin Albert.
What? I got to hear that again. What?
This.
You mean Michael Proctor's drinking buddy that he's not sure if he's a buddy with, but they definitely got drunk together and Kevin lost his badge or forgot his badge, and Michael Proctor, the lead investigator of this, in his car and possibly his pew-pew as well? What? Brian Albert's brother? You mean the man who owns the home where John O'Keefe's body was found in the yard? What?
Improved statement was ever claimed to have been made was some 24 hours later by a single EMT in an interview. Now listen to this. In an interview coordinated by a Canton police detective named Kevin Albert. Brian Albert's brother. And remember, Chris Albert, the other brother, is a board selectman to whom the Canton Police Department reports. And what's more, you'll learn that Katie...
Yeah, because we learned from Proctor, it was like, yeah, I had Kevin was going to, get the interviews. I'm sorry, what? You're going to interview, you're going to have the brother of the guy whose house the schmurder happened on his property. He's going to be organizing these interviews. And then they all come out of the interview saying the same thing that was never heard on the body cam or from the police, or the EMTs were like, I don't think I heard that. I guess they forgot to include them in that.
Chris Albert, the other brother, is a board selectman to whom the Canton Police Department reports.
And Chris, there's a Kevin, there's a Chris, there's a Brian. That's too many Alberts.
And what's more, you'll learn that Katie McLaughlin, that's the EMT, that's the single EMT the first person to have claimed to have heard this unrecorded and unreported statement, is years-long, close personal friends with a young woman named Caitlin Albert.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You heard that right. It's Brian Albert's daughter. During the course of this trial, you'll become familiar with and you'll realize
I need lip
the
gloss.
Alberts are indeed a powerful and indeed an influential family.
Clearly.
And that will mean something. You'll learn that there are other major problems with the prosecution's case. The evidence will establish that Michael Proctor himself, the lead investigator and architect of this entire case, has a long-standing and personal relationship with the Albert family. Yes, that same Albert family. His sister was close friends with Julie Albert. He personally sat at head tables at weddings, Alberts, with babysitting his own children.
And oh my goodness. And wasn't Colin Albert like the ring bearer at his wedding or something? That's you can hear it a million times and you're like, what?
You heard that correctly. And yet he was the lead detective assigned at table at weddings, Alberts, with babysitting his own children. You heard that correctly. And yet he was the lead detective assigned to investigate the circumstances of a Boston police officer laying dead on the Alberts' front lawn. That's not just bias, you'll learn.
Yeah.
That's not just coincidence.
That's corruption.
That, folks, is corruption.
It's a setup.
And you'll see how far it went. Michael Proctor was alone with all the critical evidence in this case, alone with Karen Read's phone, alone with John's phone, alone with video footage, alone with the taillight material, alone when he claimed to recover evidence from 34 Fairview. He wrote the search warrants. He transported the evidence. He secured it. He submitted it. He did it all.
He's a disgrace.
That's Michael Proctor.
Disgrace.
He did it without any reasonable oversight. You'll see during the trial that he intentionally lied and fabricated evidence during the course of this investigation. He lied in reports, warrants. He lied under oath. He lied about the time that he actually secured Karen Read's vehicle. Why? Why would he lie about that?
Why?
The evidence will give you the answer. He lied because he did not want it revealed that he had access to that vehicle and he had access to that taillight before any taillight fragments were found at 34 Fairview.
Whew.
Appreciate that. He had access.
Objection. You're making too much sense. All right? You're making too much sense, Alan Jackson. Sustained. Sustained. Let him make sense. Let him cook. Let him cook. I'm sorry, Alan Jackson. Ooh, you are right on.
Before any taillight fragments were found at 34 Fairview. Appreciate that.
Appreciate that.
He had access to the vehicle before a single piece of taillight material was ever found at the scene.
What a
You'll
coincidence.
find that there were two searches. The first and second search found zero. Nothing. Nothing around John's body. Nothing in the street. Not one piece of taillight fragment. But once Michael Proctor had that SUV and had the taillight in his custody and control, suddenly items started magically showing up. And not just a few items. 46 pieces of bright red taillight laying in the snow, supposedly found in the exact same spot that was searched not once, but twice by independent officers. Came up with zero.
Damn.
To be clear, you'll learn that before Michael Proctor had access to that taillight, not a single piece was ever recovered at 34 Fairview. That will become vitally, vitally important. And what about those shards of plastic, by the way? What about this DNA that the Commonwealth mentioned? They're going to try to dazzle you with talk of DNA because it sounds so scientific. DNA was on the taillight, but you'll learn that there was no DNA on the actual shards that they claim came in contact with John's arm. None. There was no blood, no tissue, no skin, no DNA on a single shard of plastic that they claim cut deep abrasions into John's arm, the arm that you saw overhead. The DNA that was actually found, the actual science will show it was found outside of the taillight housing where anyone with access to that vehicle would have touched. And it wasn't just one male's DNA. In that exact same sample, there were 3 men found, John and 2 unidentified males. So unless the Commonwealth is going to shift their theory that that SUV hit 3 men that night, their entire theory falls apart.
Ooh, get him.
And speaking of DNA, the evidence will further establish that John O'Keefe's shoe, the one that he was wearing when he was found, was sampled. And that DNA revealed 5, count them, 5 unidentified males. Recall that the evidence will establish independently that John was injured someplace warmer and had to be moved onto that lawn. 5 unidentified males touching that shoe. You'll also learn that you are not the first person, not the first to hear about the Commonwealth's theory of this case, that John was hit by an SUV. That's their theory. The Commonwealth presented this exact same claim to their own medical examiner, a woman by the name of Dr. Irini Scorti-Bello. And you'll learn that after reviewing what's called a law enforcement accident notifier, with law enforcement's theory of the collision written in it, defined in it, after conducting the autopsy herself, after examining John's injuries in detail, she refused to conclude that John's death was a homicide based on the Commonwealth's presentation and their theory.
Yet here we
That's
are.
right. The Commonwealth's own medical examiner will not deem the manner of death in this case, a homicide. She won't do it. But they're nonetheless back again trying to present the exact same theory to you in this trial. Again, the evidence will show that that is reasonable doubt. Throughout this trial, the Commonwealth will try to convince you of paranormal events, phones calling themselves, messages deleting themselves, Google searches made and then unmade, evidence magically appearing and evidence magically disappearing. But all that smoke and all those mirrors will not ever reach their burden. Because that's what this case is ultimately about. It's about the Commonwealth's burden of proof. You'll learn that during the trial, the Commonwealth bears the highest burden known to our justice system. They must prove every element of every charge beyond a reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty. And you'll learn that moral certainty means the highest level of certainty known in human affairs. It's not a small thing.
No.
They're not going to be able to do that.
No.
Every piece of this case was handled by a disgraced investigator with a motive to protect his friends, not when the physical evidence contradicts their very theory, not when their own medical examiner won't call this case a homicide based on the exact theory that they're presenting to you, not when the conduct of those in the house and the utter lack of investigation speaks volumes about those who actually have something to hide. By the end of this trial, you'll conclude that Karen Read is not guilty of hitting John O'Keefe with her SUV. There was no collision.
No
She's the
collision.
victim of a botched and biased and corrupted investigation that was never about the truth, folks. It was about preserving loyalty. You'll find that this case is the very definition of reasonable doubt. And at the end of this trial, we'll ask you to return the only verdicts, all 3 of them, that are consistent with the evidence, the science, the truth, and justice. Not guilty, not guilty,
Not guilty.
not guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Folks, why don't we take our morning recess?
Oh my God. So that was the opening statement from Alan Jackson. Obviously, we have the opening statement from the prosecution as well. We couldn't hear it. Sorry, Hank. Couldn't hear it. Yeah, you got to speak up, Hank. I don't know what's going on here. But Alan Jackson's woo. Woo, woo, woo. I mean, just all lining up all of the things that they are going to talk about, that they are going to prove through testimonies with experts, through testimonies with witnesses, and all the things that the prosecution is alleging, and that, according to Alan Jackson and the defense, they will not be able to prove. And it is just hearing all of that together, you know, the opening statements and the closing statements from Alan Jackson or Yannetti are always very powerful, especially Alan Jackson. And I think last time Yannetti did the opening statements, so this is a little different with Alan doing opening statements, but he did a stellar job. If I'm ever accused of something I didn't do, I want Alan Jackson to defend me. I don't think I can afford him, but promise me you guys will do a GoFundMe or something. Okay. Yeah. Standing ovation. I mean, there's just, no matter what, you know, it's just sad that it feels with this case, you're definitely not going to get justice for John O'Keefe or his family. And there's just so much reasonable doubt. There's just so much reasonable doubt. and things are just so weird and corrupt, and there's just so many questions, so much doubt around what the prosecution wants us to believe happened, where experts, medical examiners are like, well, it didn't go down like that, and yet they still go and they still go forward with this, which is crazy. But we'll see in this retrial. Kenzie says guilty. Oh my gosh. Hey Pam, good to see you. So you guys smash that like if you haven't already. Let's see if we can hit 100 likes. That would be amazing. But listening to that opening statement this morning, it was like, when it's all laid out like that, because you watch all the testimonies and then things are broken up, but when you just hear it right out there, and so many of those things that the jury will take with them throughout the trial as they listen to all the witnesses and all the testimonies. I mean, very, very powerful on behalf of Mr. Alan Jackson. I'm sorry, Alan Jackson. Woo! I need like an applause. I need some Karen Read trial sound effects. The only one I have is this.
John's boyfriend, Karen Read, killed him.
Which again, that kind of sums up this case. It's just like everything is wrong, nothing is right. Okay, so let's jump ahead a little bit. So the first witness is one of the EMTs on the scene, I believe. And I'm going to speed his testimony up a little bit, but we'll listen to some of it, see how much we can get through. I think we're an hour or so behind where it is live. So I might just skip ahead a little bit. Okay.
I was driving. It's about EMT. There are two sides of EMS, and then there are.
Okay, so he's an EMT on the scene.
You take classes. I believe mine was Tuesday, Thursday, every other Saturday. Learning.
And they're asking him right out the gate, like about his experience as an EMT, and just kind of boring. Like, let's get to the meat. Let's get to the potatoes. Let's do the damn thing. Let's see. So the defense is going to cross-examine this paramedic, pressing on inconsistent testimony. So let's get into that. So I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit, guys.
I was academic.
You guys don't need to hear about his background in being an EMT. We know he's an EMT. There we go.
Got particularly difficult to travel, and to relieve anybody that may need to it could be anything.
In the back of the ambulance, you can't see outside. Could you tell anything about the weather conditions based on the way the ambulance was moving?
Again, being in the back, as you noted, it just seemed to be taking a little bit longer than normal. I really had no visibility at all. Like I said, I was in the patient compartment. It's very limited visibility in the back, and it's limited visibility. There's like a peephole that's maybe 1.5 by 1.5 to kind of peek up front. But again, I was so busy getting everything together, I really didn't notice, but I did note it took a little bit longer. We were going not slow, but we were going cautiously.
When the ambulance finally stopped and the doors open, tell the jury what you see.
So as I mentioned, I had the 2 bags and the cardiac monitor. So 3 pieces of equipment with me. And I stepped out of the back of the side of the truck. There's a back compartment, or a back door and a side door. I stepped out of the side door. And I immediately noted the wind had picked up and the snow seemed to be heavier. And I could hear like a distant screaming off in the distance. Wasn't exactly sure where it was coming from.
What was the visibility like?
It wasn't great. It was still dark out. The sun had not come up yet. The snow was coming down, as I said, heavily. And it wasn't great all around.
Was it cold?
It was cold, yes, sir.
It's when you hear the screams, what do you do next?
I started making my way kind of towards the sound, following the sounds. I couldn't see anybody yet. So I just kind of followed the sounds. And then once I was able to get around the side of the truck, that's when I was able to see a group of 3 individuals with Canton police. And I started making my way over to them to see where the patient might be located and what was going on.
As you get closer, tell us what you see.
So as we approached the scene, as I said, there were 3 individuals, and Canton police were on scene as well. And then there was what appeared to be a human figure laying supine in the snow. I'd say about 6 to 8 feet, kind of where the sidewalk met the front lawn of a residence.
What does supine mean?
So he was laying on his back. From there, I made
what does he say? Zoot pine?
way directly over to that individual and started checking for signs of life.
How do you check? Do you get close? Do you get down on the ground?
Yep. So I knelt right at his head. Typically, to check for any signs of life, it's just as you see in TV or anything like that. You check the carotid pulse, and you check for any signs of breathing or anything like that.
Where's the carotid pulse?
So the carotid pulse would be right in the neck. Like and just real quick, 2 seconds, you can check either side. They're on both sides. Those are the strongest pulses that you can grab quickly. So I just real quick went right to that gentleman. Like I said, I looked for any signs of breathing. I found none. I checked a carotid pulse, and I found none.
How was his skin to the touch?
He was very cold to the touch.
He wasn't warm?
No.
So after you touched his cold skin and you felt the carotid, is it carotid artery? Is that?
Yes, sir, carotid artery.
Did you come to any initial quick, did you come to any initial quick assessment or conclusions in your mind?
So I found, like I said, I checked for signs of life, the carotid, the signs of breathing. I found none. From there, we had ascertained that there is no signs of life. As I was checking that, the other 2 individuals on the ambulance came and met me, and they began doing the same thing just to check. I mean, sometimes you can look and you can miss. So the other paramedic, Anthony Flamati, started checking my work, and then we kind of went from there.
Yes,
But I found no
this is
signs of life.
prosecution. Naomi.
Firefighter paramedic Flamati arrived to this person after you did.
Yes, sir. I was the first one to actually put hands on the individual and check for signs of life.
Did you later learn the name of this man?
I did.
And what was that?
John O'Keefe.
After you found no signs of life for John O'Keefe, did you get up and go to speak to anybody?
I did. So as being a second set of hands on the call, it's really not my call, like in terms of treatment modalities and how we want to progress. So after I found no signs of life, I kind of got up to kind of look around real quick. I went over to the individuals, the 3 individuals that were there, and just said, hey, I just have found no signs of life. We're going to see the next steps. And as I was saying that was when Anthony Flamati, who is the lead paramedic on this, made the decision. This is a workable cardiac arrest.
Let me ask you 2 questions. The first is, as a paramedic firefighter, are there times when you're the lead paramedic on a call?
Yes, sir.
And so it changes call by call, but this one was firefighter or paramedic Flamati's lead.
Correct. He was the lead paramedic on this call.
There are other times when you're the lead and firefighter or paramedic Flamati is on your crew and you lead?
Yes, sir. So we typically switch off. We'll do one.
Do we really need to know about who's the lead?
Situation. Can you explain to the jury what that means?
Yes. So in medicine, there is a term that is, you're not dead until you're warm and dead. Meaning your core temperature, your core body temperature has to be within normal limits for it to be considered a futile attempt at resuscitation. Noting that, Tony, the other paramedic, Tony Flamati, realized that this gentleman was very cold to the touch and that this was now a hypothermic cardiac arrest, or a cardiac arrest in a hypothermic setting, which means as providers, we have a duty to initiate life-saving measures, CPR, ventilation, and continue those efforts until we get him to a hospital and a physician is able to take over and they're able to monitor his core body temperature for a certain amount of time.
I want to ask you about a term you use. You said a hypothermic situation. As a firefighter paramedic treating a patient at the scene, you're not diagnosing hypothermia, are you?
No, sir.
So you're not making a medical diagnosis. You're just saying it's a hypothermic situation because of why?
Just because of the conditions. He was extremely cold to the touch, and he was in the elements. We didn't know how long. So taking the fact that he is extremely cold to the touch and he had been outside for an unknown amount of time, that quantifies it to us as a hypothermic arrest or a cardiac arrest in a hypothermic setting.
Is there anything about Mr. O'Keefe's fingers or hands or his face that gave you any indication if he had been there just recently or had been there for a while?
His fingers were quite cold. They were not well perfused at all. They were very, very.
I don't know. What does not perfused mean?
Sorry, there was did not appear to have been any blood flow at all. Just because he was, again, presumably being outside, his fingers were very, very white. They were very stiff, which can be signs of hypothermia and frostbite. And again, touching the neck. So typically when you get cold, you kind of work back from your extremities in. So again, I noted his fingers were quite cold. Also, when I checked his carotid, his neck felt quite cold as well. That just kind of tipped us back further down the road of a hypothermic cardiac arrest.
I see. When firefighter Flamati called you back,
yep,
where did you go exactly?
I went. So when I was told that this is what we're doing, I turned around and I went right back to where I previously knelt, which was right at Mr. O'Keefe's head. And then I took over the ventilation aspect of a cardiac arrest. So I was in charge of the airway. So I began giving him positive pressure ventilations with a bag valve mask, which is just a glorified balloon that you can push oxygen through and down into your respiratory tract to get oxygen moving. While I was doing that, I believe firefighter EMT Kelly had begun CPR.
So is this fair to say it's a team effort,
Yes, sir.
a coordinated effort?
Very much so.
And depending on where you're placed, whether in the back of the ambulance or driving or leading, does everybody have an important role to play?
Yes. Yeah, we work in conjunction with each other. Typically, the most well-defined roles in a cardiac arrest in EMS is your airway monitor, which is myself in this situation, and then your cardiac and medication administration, which is, that would be Anthony Flamati, that would be Tony. Just because of my position at the head, I just took over the ventilation aspect, and that was where I remained throughout the call.
You said you went back to try to help Mr. O'Keefe, and you were giving, helping at the airway. Do you have to actually get on the ground to do that?
Yes, sir. I was kneeling at his head.
While you were kneeling at his head, well, let me ask you more of a background question. Is it helpful to get information about the history of the person when you're trying to treat them when you happen upon a scene and you don't know the history?
Yes, sir. Very much. Getting information on medications, history, and allergies is our top priorities in any call, not even this call, just really any your run-of-the-mill fall or chest pain. That's typically the first questions that we ask. What medications are you on? What medical history do you have? And do you have any allergies? The medical history is important because if you've had heart attacks in the past, or just using a generalized example, if you've had heart attacks,
Who are you going to ask?
Feel like a previous heart attack. We kind of gives us something to go off of.
As you were nailing, I want you to take us to that moment. As you're nailing, trying to help Mr. O'Keefe, did you have a chance at any point to look up?
I did.
And when you looked up when you were trying to help Mr. O'Keefe, can you tell us who you saw?
I saw a middle-aged middle-aged female with blood on her face. And I, real quick, as I was in the process of providing ventilations, I said, do you know this person?
The person that you looked up and saw that was standing over you with blood on her face, do you recognize that person in this courtroom?
Yes, sir.
With the court's permission, sir, could you point out that person that you looked up and saw?
In between Mr. Jackson and
Mr.
next to Mr.
Yinmedi.
Jackson.
So when you looked up and saw that person and asked about any background, what did she say to you?
I hit him.
How clearly do you remember?
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, he's nervous. But when he said, I hit him, you'll notice through a lot of the testimonies in the first trial, when people may or may not be being honest, their voice, they struggle. Let me put it back down to, I had him on 1.2 to get, to get it going. But let's listen to him. So I hit him.
In between Mr. Jackson or next to Mr. Jackson.
So when you looked up and saw that person and asked about any background, what did she say to you?
I hit him.
I don't know why that question made him go through puberty, but here we are. Okay. Thank you, sir. I hit him. I hit him. And you'd see that with Proctor as well in his testimony, especially when they talked about Brian Higgins. He was like deep breaths, like you could tell just through my interpretation, which whatever, I'm a comedian, but that it struck me as like, oh, you're scared. I'm going to bump it up to 1.3 because Hank is taking forever. He's Hank Hilling his way through this testimony and these questions.
Really, do you remember her words saying to you, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him?
I remember it very distinctly.
You've been to a lot of calls over the years and since.
Yes, sir.
Would you say hundreds or thousands?
Thousands.
Do you remember all of them?
I remember aspects of.
No. Who would
various
remember all of
calls,
them?
but not all of them, no.
Do some stand out more than others?
Yes, sir.
Of course.
Did this particular moment stand out more as compared to your typical or most calls that you've been to?
It did, just because of the setting. I mean, it was the weather. It was the
It did, just because we had met. Kevin arranged it that we would meet and be questioned and all get on the same page. Allegedly. What am I talking about?
unknown factors, and it was the attempting to try and get information and not really being able to glean anything from that.
After the defendant said to you, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, did you ask any follow-up questions?
I really didn't get a chance to, because following that, the individual just kind of walked away, or just kind of went in a different direction. I wasn't able to ask any follow-up questions.
Have you ever received any police training?
No, sir.
Are you a police officer?
No, sir.
When you're helping a patient, do you have any interest in detective work?
No, sir.
Do you have any interest in investigating potential crimes?
At that time, in this particular instance, because I was at the airway, that is a pretty critical.
I'd be like, are you in any way friends with the Alberts or the McCabes? Okay, so you dated an Albert, and there was and then an Albert was the best man at your wedding, and you may or may not have had an illegitimate child with an Albert. Okay, thank you.
Aspect of a cardiac arrest, I was stuck there. I couldn't get up and kind of follow up on that at all. I was there doing that ventilation.
Is it your job to investigate cases, or simply to get information to help treatment?
Just the information.
When you go out as a firefighter paramedic, do you have a purposeful cause?
Yes, sir.
And what is that?
To save lives.
And is that your only focus?
In this instance, it was attempting to restore circulation and breathing.
At some point with your colleagues, did you lift Mr. O'Keefe from the ground?
We did.
When you lift him, what do you put him on?
So we put him on, it's called a scoop stretcher. It's basically just a hard plastic moving device with some seatbelts on it, just to get the patient up and onto the stretcher. And then from there, we can move from the stretcher to the ambulance.
After you lift him to the stretcher, tell us what happens next.
So we put Mr. O'Keefe on the scoop stretcher, and we were able to get him onto the stretcher itself and then off to the ambulance. From there, I maintained my role as the airway individual on this call. So we made our way to the ambulance. I got in the tech seat, which is directly behind where the stretcher locks in. So I had access to the airway again.
Okay.
I was continuing to provide positive pressure ventilations to Mr. O'Keefe, and we had put in an OPA as well, which is just a plastic hook, if you will. It just keeps the tongue from flying into the airway, so we can positive pressure ventilation. Once we got him in the truck and did that effort, we set up a suction system, and we prepared to intubate Mr. O'Keefe. We prepared a suction system just because as I was ventilating outside of the ambulance, there were some secretions in the airway that I could see, and you could kind of hear it as you go to squeeze in breaths into the individual. You can kind of hear the secretions kind of getting like bubbly and stuff like that. So we knew we were going to need to suction him. So we got him in the truck. We really quickly suctioned him, and then we were able to intubate him successfully to definitively give him an advanced airway and give him better ventilations, get more oxygen into his system.
Now, you mentioned that he wasn't warm. He was very cold.
No, he was still very cold.
What does the team do to try to assist with that?
The most basic thing that we did, we turned the heat on as high as it would go. We also stripped all of his clothing off, just getting all of that wet clothing off of him. I didn't really have a role in that particular part of it, just because once you're on the airway, that is kind of yours. Nobody can breathe for him. So every time I squeeze that bag, he gets a breath. So I'm kind of tied to that airway for the duration of the call.
So when your colleagues are stripping the clothes off him, is your attention on the clothes or more on the airway in your job?
No, I'm maintaining the airway. If an endotracheal tube is dislodged for whatever reason, it is typically more difficult to get one in. So the integrity of that tube staying where it is and not being dislodged, that is another key aspect of airway management.
As you're doing that, do you notice what any of your colleagues are doing to help?
Like I said, they were working on clothing removal. I believe they were also getting intravenous and intraosseous access on this individual to begin medication administration. But again, I was quite focused on that airway, just making sure that it was maintained and we didn't lose any tube. We didn't lose any end-tidal CO2, which is just another monitoring device that we use to confirm that tube is in place.
How quickly do you get to leave the scene and start moving towards the hospital?
I honestly couldn't give you an accurate estimate. It didn't seem to be out of the ordinary realm, though. We were able to move within the flow.
In addition to Mr. Keefe being very cold, did you notice any other injuries on him?
So I noted that he had a hematoma right above his right eye.
Could you explain to us what that is?
Yep, it's just, for lack of a better term, it's just a big egg. He had a pretty good bump over his eye.
And you said his right eye?
Yes, sir.
Did you know how that hematoma was caused?
No, sir.
No idea?
No.
In addition to the hematoma above his right eye, what other injuries did you see?
There were also several scratches on his right arm, just below his shoulder and traveling down his right humerus. They terminated right about his right elbow, just above it.
Those scratches, have you also described them as abrasions?
Yes, sir.
Is there any difference in your mind, difference between scratches and abrasions?
Nope. These were they were deep and they were not bleeding, but they were notably deep.
Did you ever describe it as furrows?
I did.
And in describing those scratches, do you have any idea how they were caused?
No, sir.
Okay. And did you notice any other injuries on Mr. O'Keefe?
No, sir. Those were the kind of the only ones that we noted. As I mentioned, we suctioned a little bit of blood out of the back of his airway as well. I believe it was blood, mucus, and saliva. But those were the extent of the injuries that I was able to note.
Did you notice anything about the back of his head?
Actually, yes, I did. I apologize. There seemed to be a little bit of matted blood around in his hair around there. Really didn't see anything too obvious at the time. He was also placed in a cervical collar as well, following intubation, and that was kind of there just to maintain his cervical spine. But there was, like I said, there was noted to be a little bit of dry blood on the back of his head.
At some point, did you finally make your way with Mr. O'Keefe to the Good Samaritan Hospital?
Yes, sir.
And just share with us what happens when you get there.
So after we got there, we handed off care to Good Samaritan Medical's physicians and ER nurses. We were able to give a report to the physician of just basic what we've done, what we've given for medications. In my case, what he was intubated with and how he was being ventilated, how well he was being ventilated, and any other further pertinent information. Typically, we noted that Tony was the lead paramedic, so that is typically he kind of holds the room for a minute when we get in there, gives a big rundown, and then we back off and let Good Samaritan take over.
When the defendant told you that she hit him, did that have any significance to you?
No, sir.
Did it reconcile with the injuries that you saw before you that Mr. O'Keefe was suffering from?
No, sir.
And so at that point, was that information insignificant in perspective of your care? Okay. What role did that information play in your care after the defendant told you she hit him? How did that contribute or not contribute to what you were doing?
It really didn't help at the time. Again, I wasn't able to chase anything down from that. I just kind of took it and noted it and moved on with my aspect of the cardiac arrest.
Hank, come on, Hank.
Have you had an opportunity at any point to see any video of that morning taken from any source, police car, dash cam?
Yes, sir.
Or I'd like to introduce a video stream.
Uh-oh.
So this will be in evidence? There are agreements with some of the evidence already?
I believe there's no objection, but I don't want to speak for the defense.
Okay, thank you. Yes, you can show it.
And for the record, if I may note, this is Cruiser 683 Stream 2. I'm sorry. It is Cruiser 683 Stream 2.
Oh.
I'm going to ask to play a portion of it that's relevant to Mr. Nuttall.
We got a new
Those
court
who would
reporter
please
lady.
Move to 6:11 a.m.
Where's the other lady? I miss her. Okay, so here's the cam when they came to try to resuscitate and found John's body.
Please stop the video. Mr. Nuttall, do you see the red lights reflecting on the left?
Yes, sir.
Do you know what those red lights are?
Presumably, those would be ambulance 1.
Yeah, so not what you presume. Do you know what they asked her?
And those are the lights for ambulance 1.
Do you see the weather conditions as it's depicted on this video?
Yes, sir.
As you stood outside, was it same or different to how it appears on this video?
That is the same.
When you look to the left, you see a straight line about an inch or two from the left of the screen. Do you know what that item is?
Sorry, sir. Repeat the question.
If you look to the left of the screen,
Yep.
you'll see a straight item from the bottom halfway up the picture. Do you know what that item is?
I believe that's a flagpole, sir.
Do you see a little bit of movement of bodies near that flagpole?
At the present time, no.
Okay. Could we continue to play, please?
Yep, there they are.
Could you stop, please? Do you see the first person in line now behind the person in front of the person with the blue hat?
I'm sorry, sir. Can you back it up like 10 seconds?
Oh
Sorry.
my God. There's Karen.
Keep going, please. Do you know who that person is?
I believe that's me, sir.
Okay. Could you please continue? Is this your first assessment?
Yes, sir. This is ascertaining any signs of life or breathing.
Is that you approaching?
Yes, sir.
That's it.
Could you stop, please? After informing you return, is that after firefighter Flamati called you?
So right after that, when I turned around, that was when Tony said, "Hey, we're working this."
Okay. Please continue.
So there's Karen running back.
Stop, please. And do you see a person come over to where you are?
Yes, sir.
Is it at that point or another moment when the defendant said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him?
It was right there, sir.
Could you continue, please?
So that quickly
Let's
she
stop for a
said it?
moment. There's no voices or noises from people coming through that audio. When you were there that night throughout the event, was it silent or were people speaking? Did you hear people speaking?
There was, as I noted when I got out of the truck, there was quite a bit of screaming. It was quite chaotic. The wind was also a factor, but there were people around. They were speaking within themselves too, but there was screaming, there was wind, and there was different side conversations as well.
And when you were working on Mr. O'Keefe, were you having conversations with your colleagues?
Yes, sir.
They're not picked up on the audio?
No, sir.
Please continue. Sir, are you still at the flagpole?
Yes, sir. I'm kneeling at the head of the patient.
Who's got their ringer on?
Are you included in that group of first responders?
I am not, sir. I've actually exited to the side with the bags. I believe I'm entering the ambulance at this point.
Okay. Thank you. We can conclude the viewing.
What was the point of that?
With the court's permission, I'd like to approach and show a few exhibits to Mr. Nuttall. They've been shown to the defense.
Yes,
Thank you. May I approach?
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's like she ran over, whispered, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. And then was like, Jen, screaming. Yeah, she seems beside herself.
Yes, sir.
Sir, do you recognize what's in that photograph?
Yes, sir. Those are the scratches on Mr. O'Keefe's arm.
Does that appear the same as when you saw his arm that morning, or is there any differences? And if there's any differences, can you share them with us?
That appears how they were to me at the time of the incident.
May I approach you, Arm?
Yes.
I'd like to introduce this as an exhibit, please.
Okay.
I'm going to hand you a.
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Pardon me, Arm.
So I like watching it later on the trial channel. They cut out all the stuff and all the sidebars and get to it.
Is that the photograph you just identified on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Showing you a second photograph, I'd like to ask you some questions about it.
Can we take that one down, Mr. Brennan?
Yes, of course.
Please, Ms. Gilman.
Thank you.
Mr. Brennan.
Does that photograph, do you recognize that area?
Yes, sir.
Is that the same or substantially the same area where you helped try to treat John O'Keefe?
Yes, sir.
Does that look to be a fair and accurate representation of the area?
It does.
With the court's permission, I would introduce this as an exhibit, please.
Okay, and there's no objection to any of these three?
No.
Okay. Yes.
Alan's like, nope. No objection. Yeah,
With the
Anna.
court's permission, can I publish exhibit 2?
Yes.
No. What if Auntie Bev's like, no, no more. Case dismissed. Insufficient evidence. Objection.
And sir, that's what you recognize
This
as
is
the area where
ridiculous.
you were helping to treat John O'Keefe.
Yes, sir.
I've left one last photograph in front of you.
Yes, sir.
And do you recognize that?
I do.
Tell us about any differences between when you were there and what you see in that photograph.
The street appears to be plowed. There's bare pavement. The weather conditions are significantly better. It is also daytime.
If we could take down that exhibit 2.
I was like, we were still looking at
May I approach,
nighttime.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I would move to introduce this as exhibit 3.
All right.
three.
Sure.
Is that the photo you just identified?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we can take that down. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right. All right, Alan. Let's get this going, Alan. I'm falling asleep here. I'm on my 2nd Celsius. Oh, geez. I'm sorry, Mr. Jackson. Ooh, I am for real. Please entertain us, keep us awake, ask some good questions on a date. Let's get in the binder, guys. All right, Beardy Allen.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I?
Yes, please.
Good morning, good afternoon, Firefighter Nuttall.
Good afternoon, sir.
Nice to see you again.
Timothy Nuttall. That's who we're talking
Before
to.
your testimony this morning, how many conversations had you had with any member of the prosecution team in anticipation of your testimony today?
I believe it was 3, sir.
When were those?
I could not give you dates off the top of my head.
Give me a time frame within the last 3 weeks, within the last 3 months, last 3 days.
Within the last 3 weeks, I believe one the week after that, and then one last night.
One
Last night.
last night. What you did discuss, let's take them in order. First of all, who'd you meet with 3 weeks ago?
I met with Mr. Brennan and his staff.
And when you say his staff, who else?
I honestly couldn't tell you, sir.
Mr. Lally?
No. No, sir.
Male, female?
One female, one I believe, state trooper.
Okay. Had you ever met State Trooper Tully previously?
Yes, sir. Actually, I believe that was him.
It was State Trooper Tully?
Yes, sir.
Whom you've met with several times, correct?
Prior to that, I believe only once or twice.
He was the one that he has formally interviewed you previously, correct?
I believe he arranged the meetings with Mr. Brennan. But beyond that, I can't speak to.
What did y'all discuss 3 weeks ago?
The first meeting, going in order, it was mostly just kind of an introduction. I had not met Mr. Brennan yet.
You guys, I know he's nervous and stuff, but oh god,
Really didn't know him, so it was mostly that, and then just kind of seeing where we were at with testimony, going over previous testimony, and in that sort of realm.
Prior to today, how many times have you testified under oath concerning the incident on January 29th, 2022?
Once at a grand jury here last year.
grand
Last
jury,
year in this court.
the feds.
Look over your testimony at the grand jury 3 weeks ago during that
No, sir.
last year.
Last year, yes, sir.
Why is
Mr.
their
Brennan or anybody
feed so horrible?
concerning any of your testimony.
Just how many times the I hit him came up. It was 3 times.
And were you advised that that's not what you said at your testimony last year?
Ooh.
Said it
No,
was
sir.
2 times?
Oh.
You said it was 2 times last year?
Oh, damn. Inconsistencies from what you said last year to now. Get him, Alan. He's like,
3 times.
And were you advised that that's not what you said at your testimony last year? Said it
No,
was
sir.
2 times?
What was that?
You said it was 2 times
What was that?
last year?
I honestly can't recall, sir.
Okay. But you just saw that, or you just read that and went over that 3 weeks ago.
I believe so, sir. Yeah.
But you can't remember, as you sit here today, just 3 weeks ago, what y'all discussed in terms of how many times you previously testified that you heard the phrase, I hit him.
Of the 2, but it was 3.
Okay. Your memory is clearer now than it was, for instance, a year ago when you testified.
Repeat that?
Sure. Your memory is clearer now, as you sit here, that it was 3 times you heard that, than it was a year ago when you testified that it was 2 times.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does your memory get better with time generally? Your memory. I'm not talking about the royal you. I'm talking about you.
In certain settings, I mean, there are certain things about different aspects that I recall better than others.
like when I'm told that I have to recall this or I'm in a meeting about this.
Okay. And does your memory tend to get better or does it fade over time? That's my question.
It can fade over time, but it depends on the context.
But in this case, you're telling this jury that your memory is better now than it was a year ago when you testified about the exact same circumstance, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
He doesn't know what he's doing.
You then met about a week after that, which would be 2 weeks ago.
Yes, sir.
Who'd you meet with then?
The same group.
And what did you discuss at that meeting?
Again, just prior testimony.
Weather.
And that was really the the gist of it.
Just hanging
And
out.
tell me the specifics of the prior testimony that you.
Again, it was the how many times we had talked about saying I hit him. Again, it was 3 times. And then there was also the video that was just played for me.
If I'll take the video in just a second. If y'all had met 3 weeks ago and you indicated to Mr. Brennan that it was actually 3 times, not 2 times that you heard the I hit him, why did you need to discuss it again a week later to verify the 3 times versus 2 times?
Not sure, sir. That was just the way that the conversation went. And I just, again, repeating what I said and what I remember from that morning.
Well, tell me about that conversation. Did Mr. Brennan say anything like, well, are you really sure that she said it 3 times?
It was that morning what was said to you. And I said, I hit him. That was how it went that morning, and that was how I remember it.
Okay. And did Mr. Brennan say, well, that's
Puberty
not
hits again.
consistent with how you've testified previously concerning the number of times you heard the I hit him phrase?
Yes, sir.
He did say that.
He wanted to, he acknowledged that I had said it twice. However, again, as I mentioned, it was said 3 times to me.
So now you do remember last year that you only said it, you only said that it was repeated twice.
One time, sir.
So now you do recall that last year when you testified, it was inconsistent with how you're testifying today. Let me put it that way. Correct?
I believe I said I hit him twice on the stand last year.
Right. And if you're saying I hit him 3 times instead of twice, that firefighter Nuttall is inconsistent with your testimony today.
Nuttall.
You
Yes,
agree
sir.
with that?
But that is how it went that morning, though, sir.
Okay, that's not my question. Let me see if I can do it again.
Oh, God.
So I'm asking you, if you testified last year,
Yes, sir.
but you heard the phrase twice,
Mhm.
and now a year goes by, and you're testifying in front of this jury this year,
You added 1.
those 2 statements are inconsistent with one another, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you talk at the meeting 2 weeks ago about any other inconsistencies with your testimony?
Not to my knowledge, sir.
Not to your knowledge.
You were there.
Yeah.
So not to my knowledge, meaning
No, sir. We did not.
Objection. That doesn't make
so it was
sense.
just about the number of times that you heard the phrase "I hit him."
Yes,
Correct?
sir.
You cleared that up in the 2 meetings 3 weeks ago and 2 weeks ago. What did you talk about last night?
Mostly just making sure that everything was as it had been. I mean, and by
What?
that I mean it was 3 times, and then that we were continuously making sure that everything was the way that it had happened that morning.
Everything was the way that Mr. Brennan wanted it to be.
No, sir. The way that it was in, I remember it, and I recall it happening.
Yeah.
So he asked you 3 weeks ago about how many times you heard that phrase.
Yes, sir.
You changed your testimony at that time and said it was 3 times instead of 2 times. We agree on that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Then he called you a week later or met with you a week later and again reiterated, making sure you stick with that testimony that it's 3 times, not 2 times, correct?
Once,
Yes, sir.
twice.
And then last night he called you
3
just to make sure
times.
one more time you're going to stick with that testimony
I hit
that it was
him.
3 times, not 2 times, correct? sir? Just a second. May I have just a moment? Your Honor?
Yes.
Oh my God. I got to go get my doogies. I'll be right back, guys.
Okay. And when you talked last night, did you assure Mr. Brennan, nope. When we come in tomorrow, I'm certainly going to say it was 3 times, not 2 times.
No, sir. I told him I would tell my recollection of that morning.
Okay. And did you tell him that what my recollection is, I'm going to tell the jurors it was 3 times that I heard it?
That was what I heard.
Okay. Did you tell him that's what you were going to say today?
No, sir.
You didn't?
I told him I was going to tell him what I remembered from that morning.
Which was what?
I hit him.
Which is how many times?
3 times, sir.
And that's inconsistent with what?
I believe a year ago.
Okay. Now you also talked about, I want to get back to the other thing that you talked about. You said that at some point, either in the meeting 3 weeks ago, the meeting 2 weeks ago, or the meeting last night, you were shown a video.
Yes, sir.
Which one of those meetings were you shown a video?
I believe the second one.
Okay. Were you shown the entire video?
No, sir.
Just the clip that we saw?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What did y'all talk about in relation to that video?
Mostly nailing down who was who in that video.
Okay.
Being the other personnel on scene, where I was, and that was about it.
He showed you the clip that you showed. He showed you the clip that you just seen on direct examination, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you tell him where you were?
Yes, sir.
Did Mr. Brennan ask you to define exactly where it was that you supposedly heard this phrase, "I hit him"?
No, I was able to give that to him, sir.
Okay. And what you told him was that moment when you see my client walk over sort of to the left of the screen, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you defined that's the point at which she said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
Yes, sir.
And that's in response to your question. I want to make sure I'm clear about this. You asked, do you know him?
Yes, sir.
And she repeated the phrase 3 times, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
What she said,
Okay.
I hit him, I hit him, I hit
We'll talk more about that in just a second.
him.
Did Mr. Brennan ask anything else about that specific video?
No, like I said, he kind of asked me to point out different individuals on the scene, and that was really the extent of it.
You saw that same video last year when you testified, correct?
No, sir.
You didn't see it last year?
Not to my knowledge, no.
In preparation for your testimony last year?
I did not.
Did you see it before your grand jury testimony?
No, sir.
Okay, so this is the first time that you've seen it.
Yes, sir.
And you were able to establish for Mr. Brennan exactly when it was that you believe you heard the statement based on your view about 2 weeks ago of that video.
No, that was the way that I remember it.
Hi, Dave.
Right, that's not a trick question. My question is much more simple. You were able to establish after 3.5 years now exactly where you were and where Miss Reed was and who else was around at the time that you believe you heard those 3 statements in order. I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
He's like,
You testified last year as well that there is a normal protocol for removing clothing from a patient, and it's essential to just discard it and get it away from the patient so that you can concentrate on the life-saving measures that you're undertaking, correct?
Yes, sir.
yes, sir.
That could be done you said in the ambulance, it could be done in the hospital, it could be done in situ out there in the field, correct?
Yes, sir.
But the point is you want to get as much clothing off of the person as possible so that you can assess that person's physiology.
Yes, sir.
It's not really a lot of care taken to preserve the clothing from an evidentiary standpoint in your view, correct?
And we're trained to try and, just to take example of a shooting, try not to cut through the entrance wound of the clothing.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, when you're literally trying to save someone's life, your job is to get the clothing off and get it out of the way.
Yes, sir.
You're not sticking it in an evidence bag and sealing the evidence bag, things of that nature.
No, sir.
So it might end up on the ground.
Yes.
Right? Might end up with some debris on it.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Might end up in the floor of the ambulance.
Yes, sir.
Could end up in the floor of the hospital
Mhm.
or on the floor of the hospital. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And if it's tossed in the floor of the ambulance, the clothing may well pick up debris from the ambulance.
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir.
Or the debris from the floor of the hospital or wherever.
Mhm.
Is that yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You testified previously at the grand jury in April of
Silly goose.
2022, correct?
Yes, sir. I believe so, sir.
Okay. So this happened in January of 2022, that same year in the springtime. You testified at grand jury, April 20th, I think it was.
Yes, sir.
Does that sound right?
420.
Yes. Okay. I want to take you back to that testimony for a second. You testified at that hearing that Mr. O'Keefe was, quote, dressed appropriately for the weather. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
All right. It was obviously well below freezing at that time.
Yes,
That night that you responded.
it was.
We just seen the video. It looks cold as hell, right?
It was chilly.
All right. The wind was howling.
Yep.
It was snowing. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you testified that John O'Keefe, quote, had a heavy coat on and possibly 2 other layers of clothing.
Yes, sir.
In April 2024, you reiterated your very specific memory of and you even called it a puffy heavy coat
Mhm.
that he was wearing, which was then removed so that you could assess his injuries, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Not to get too colloquial, but a puffy coat is like, it's got down and stuff in it, right?
Correct.
Looks kind of like Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Pretty distinctive article of clothing.
Yep.
And you testified last year that Mr. O'Keefe was wearing that clothing, which you had to remove or somebody had to remove in order for him to be properly assessed.
I did testify that way. Yes, sir.
Okay. And you mentioned that your memory of that big heavy winter coat was as clear as your memory of other specifics in this case, correct?
Yes, sir.
I asked you that exact question, didn't I?
You did.
And I said, your memory of him having that big puffy coat on, which stood out in your mind, was just as clear as the other specifics that you testified to about the case,
Yes, sir.
about that night. And turns out you were completely wrong about his clothing, correct?
Correct.
Matter of fact, he wasn't wearing a coat at all.
Oh, damn.
Yes, sir.
He wasn't wearing a winter coat,
No, he wasn't.
correct?
Nope.
He wasn't wearing a heavy winter coat.
Such a good
Correct.
boy. That's
Correct.
He
Teddy.
wasn't wearing a puffy, heavy winter
We
coat.
got Buffy here and Dave here.
Yet you testified that he was wearing all of that, and that was clear in your mind at the time.
Yes, sir.
So clearly your mind
Did
wasn't
Mr. Brennan
very
bring that
clear.
up during the meeting 3 weeks ago?
He asked about what I had meant when I said appropriately dressed.
So you did talk about something other than just I hit him, correct?
Yes, sir.
When I asked what y'all talked about, why didn't you tell us that?
To be perfectly honest, sir, I did not remember until right.
So you don't remember very much, but you do remember pretty clearly that she said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. But first she said, I hit him, and now it's I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Oh boy, throw this witness away. Goldilocks says, no, the black dog you saw right here, that's Teddy. The brown tripod is Dave dog. And the little white princess, little white doggy is Buffy. So you weren't wrong, Goldie. Oh my God. Alan is dismantling this man.
Right now.
So your memory is fading even after 3 weeks.
Yes, sir.
Got it. The fact is, well, let me ask you a different question. Did Mr. Brennan tell you what Mr. O'Keefe was actually wearing?
No, sir. Actually, I believe you did.
Last year, didn't I?
Yes,
What?
you did.
It's a short sleeve t-shirt and a little thin wool hoodie, right?
Yes, sir.
Wasn't wearing a hat.
No, sir.
Wasn't wearing, as a matter of fact, didn't even have a shoe on, correct?
Not to my knowledge.
And obviously, goes without saying, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Yeah, Dave.
That's not being appropriately dressed for the winter.
No, sir.
Oh.
You indicated that you did notice certain injuries on Mr. O'Keefe's person.
Sir.
Once you got him back in the ambulance, obviously it's lighter, meaning brighter lights. You have more equipment in the back of the ambulance. You can better assess somebody's well-being, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you indicated you had a, quote, much better picture of what we were dealing with, correct?
Yes.
You noticed once in the back of the ambulance that he had trauma to the right side of his head.
Correct.
And as a matter of fact, when you were pointing at it, I'm doing that on
Right,
purpose.
Lucy?
Because you pointed to the right side of your sort of forehead above your right eyebrow, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The majority or the worst injury that Mr. O'Keefe suffered was actually to the back of his head, which you indicated, you noted was quite matted with blood, correct?
Yes, sir.
I want to talk about the injury to the right side of his head as distinct from the back of the head injury for just a second. Before I get to that in detail, let me ask you, because I just sort of want to cover the bases. You noted the back of the head injury, correct? Is that yes?
Yes, sir.
You also noted the front right side of the head above the right eye, correct?
We did.
You noted some injury to his eyes. They looked blackened.
Yes, sir.
But primarily the right eye was blackened.
Yep.
And there was a golf ball sized egg, I think you put it over his right eye, often called a hematoma.
Oh my gosh.
And you also noted when you got his shirt off that he had scratches along the right side of his arm. Is that right?
Sir.
You indicated on direct examination today that you believe those scratches ended where? Meaning from top to bottom? And I'm not using anatomically correct language. So from shoulder to wrist, where were the scratches that you noted?
There were several. As I noted, they were on his right humerus area.
Tell me where the humerus is.
The right arm.
Biceps.
Right about here.
Okay.
No, a little further, like where your bicep and your tricep kind of meet.
Got it.
Right about in there.
Okay. And what did the scratches look like?
They were deep. Infamously referred to them as furrows.
Furrow.
But they were quite deep. You could tell that there had been some material removed.
Okay. Material meaning skin and flesh.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Some biological material.
Mhm.
Is that yes?
Yes, sir.
And were they parallel? Meaning they were going in the same direction?
Yes.
Were there any scratches below the elbow?
There were. Yes, there were. They were not as significant as the ones in the upper arm, but they were noted.
Okay. And those were parallel as well?
Yes, sir.
And they looked like scratches to you. That's how you described them?
They did.
Last year, when you described those scratches, you curled your fingers up, exposing sort of the nails, and drew it across your biceps. Is that what you were using to describe what the sort of scratches looked like?
I just kind of used that as a landmark, to be honest with you, sir. It was just kind of how I quantified it in my mind.
Okay. But what you did was you did this motion.
Yes, sir.
As you said, there were furrows. And remember, there was an embarrassing moment for me.
Both of us, sir.
I couldn't understand the word furrow.
Furrow.
Because of the accent, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about the hematoma above the right eye for a second. That's basically damage to subdural blood vessels that causes acute swelling, right?
Correct.
And a very common cause of a hematoma over one's eye could be being hit or punched in the face. We talked about that.
There could be several causes for hematoma, such as that.
Obviously. I mean, it could be a golf club, a baseball bat, or it could be a fist.
It could be.
Okay. We talked about that last year. I asked you if the injuries you saw on Mr. O'Keefe's face, including the laceration over his right eye, was consistent or inconsistent with a physical altercation, and you said it was consistent with a physical altercation as well.
Excuse me?
Objection to referring to past testimony before a question is asked.
So sustained.
Sure. Do you remember
we got an
laceration,
objection.
in addition to the hematoma, about a 0.8 centimeter laceration over his right eye?
I do.
Tell me what I'm using a word that maybe not everybody understands. I didn't understand it when we first started this thing. What's a laceration? What's the difference between that and a cut?
A laceration is they're basically the same thing. Laceration is just a deep cut.
Okay. So
Deep
it's
cut.
a parting of the skin.
Correct.
In other words, where the skin separates.
Yes.
And that can be from blunt force trauma, meaning something hits it rather than cuts it.
You can get
Sustained.
Objection. Why?
What are some of the causes of lacerations?
you can get a laceration as you noted, blunt force, but you can also get a laceration from a slashing movement, from a stabbing. I mean, that is still a laceration.
What about hematoma?
That is primarily caused by blunt force trauma.
Right. And the hematoma and the laceration were right next to each other, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you indicated last year, or let me ask you this way. Is that consistent or inconsistent with a physical altercation?
Objection.
Can you answer that?
I could not say, Your Honor.
Okay, next question.
Well, last year, you indicate you can't answer that. Last year, you did answer it, didn't you?
Objection.
So I need to see counsel at sidebar for just a minute.
Oh, Alan's in trouble. Auntie Bev says, "Get over here, Alan." She's gonna give him a spanking, spanky spank.
Natalie, we are going to let you take a break with that.
There is John O'Keefe's brother. You guys sent me stuff about how he was allegedly communicating through signs with his hands, not ASL, but with a possible mistress or something. I haven't watched the things you guys sent me yet, but I'm going to have to.
Mr. Nettle, we are going to let you take a break with that after the lunch break. So this is
And then we go to the fan. We go to the lights. Ceiling fan time.
Tony, is it here? Okay. There's lunch here for you. We'll see you.
Damn ceiling fan.
All rise, please. Curiously, get up on city chairs.
All rise. You're going to have some lunch. Maybe you can have Subway. Eat fresh. You can have Obbies. You have low carbies. And then we're coming back after lunch. I wonder what they had. I wonder what the jury selected. I don't know. I'm getting hungry, though. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what, guys. We're back, baby. Any other angle than this damn fan could they get? And the blind, oh, those blinds are so unfortunate. The curtain rod, everything is unfortunate. The decor.
We discussed this
This courthouse deserves better.
morning or earlier in the session with anybody.
Look, it looks like somebody punched where the judge sits there next to where this is Timothy Nuttall, Mr. Nuttall, the EMT, firefighter, paramedic on the scene when they found John O'Keefe in Brian Albert in his front yard.
Question testimony?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. You did mention earlier today the EMTs that were with you that responded to the scene. You mentioned, I think you said Tony Anthony Flamati, correct?
Witness.
You mentioned Kelly, and I want to say Matt Kelly. Matt Kelly.
Chowda. Chowda.
yourself,
Correct.
And of the three of you, two of the three of you were and are paramedics, our firefighter Flamati and yourself, correct?
Correct.
Do you know the name
Bobby.
Katie McLaughlin?
I do.
Who's
I
Katie
don't
McLaughlin?
know.
She is a firefighter paramedic for the town of Canton.
Was she also on the call?
She was.
You didn't mention her this morning.
It did not come up. She responded on the initial dispatch on engine 3.
You were asked who responded. You were asked.
Okay, we're going to play a little game. Let's start from right now, counting the ahs. Every time Timothy Nuttall says ah. Let's count them in the chat and see how many we can get up to.
Who responded with you? Correct.
Yes, sir.
by Mr. Brennan.
Yes, sir.
And you mentioned yourself. You mentioned Tony Flamati. You mentioned Matt Kelly.
Flamati?
Yes, myself, firefighter Flamati, and firefighter Kelly responded in ambulance 1 together.
Okay. And how did firefighter McLaughlin respond?
So she was assigned to Engine 3 that night. She was with Lieutenant Woodbury and firefighter paramedic Frank Walsh.
She also, in addition to Walsh being, it's Frank Walsh?
Yes, sir.
In addition to firefighter Walsh being a
John
paramedic,
Walsh.
Katie McLaughlin was also a paramedic.
Correct.
So she responded to the scene at the same time as you, generally, but in a different ambulance.
In a fire truck, in a piece of fire apparatus. She was
Got
in
it.
Engine 3.
Got it. Engine 3. Okay. And she was with you, generally, when I say with you, at the scene during the entire time that you're describing the events that you described with Mr. Brennan on direct examination.
For the most part.
Okay. She then left in a particular ambulance, correct?
Yes, so she ended up driving ambulance 1 to Good Samaritan.
And ambulance 1 was which ambulance?
Ambulance 1 was the initial ambulance that myself, firefighter Kelly, and firefighter Flamati responded in.
Firefighter
So
Kelly.
right after the scene that you described, as you're leaving the scene, firefighter McLaughlin is in the ambulance with you and firefighter Flamati, correct?
She is driving. So the 3 of us are in the back in the patient compartment. She is up front in the driver's seat.
Once at the hospital, did firefighter McLaughlin go into the hospital with the other firefighters?
I believe so, yes.
So she was with you in the engine. She was, although in the driving cab, she was with you, ambulance in the driving cab. She was also with you right after the scene at the hospital, correct?
Yes, sir.
And she was also with you later after you cleared the hospital and went back to the station.
Yes, sir.
You had discussions with firefighter Flamati about the incident. That would be normal protocol.
Correct.
Almost like a debrief.
Sure.
You had the same types of discussions with firefighter Kelly, Matt Kelly.
Yes, sir.
I'm guessing that you probably had the same sorts of discussions with firefighter Walsh.
I actually don't know if I saw firefighter Walsh when we got back. The weather was right at shift change, and the weather getting back was also getting worse. So I honestly couldn't speak to that.
And you also had conversations with firefighter McLaughlin after you cleared the hospital and got back to the station as well.
She was part of the debrief. Yes, sir.
Okay. And all of you discussed what you did, saw, and heard, generally speaking, while at the scene, correct?
Those are more in terms of getting equipment wrangled, really kind of how they go. What did we use? What do we need? What are we going to have to restock when we get back?
Right. But there also was obviously discussions about what had just happened. I mean, you were dealing with a dead or dying police officer on a lawn, on a snow-covered lawn in a cold environment.
I honestly couldn't speak to that, sir. I honestly don't remember.
It's because you don't remember.
Now he doesn't have a good memory.
Well, like I said, it's mostly those debriefs are usually they're very equipment oriented because the goal at that point is to get back in service.
My question is not about the equipment. Obviously, you're going to discuss the equipment, make sure that the ambulance is ready for the next call, etc. I'm asking about a general debrief with the fellow firefighters, male and female, that you were with at that scene. You're telling me that you don't remember debriefing and discussing the incident and your observations at the incident following that incident.
No, sir.
Okay. But your memory, you indicated earlier, gets better with time, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, God.
You don't remember it as you sit here today?
Ask the question again.
Oh,
Sure.
Jesus.
Do you remember discussing with firefighter Flamati, firefighter Walsh, firefighter Kelly, firefighter McLaughlin, any of them, your observations and what happened while at the scene after you cleared the hospital and got back to the station?
No, sir.
Have no memory of that whatsoever.
No, sir.
Oh, boy. He doesn't remember. He needs
When we
member
left off
berries.
Before lunch, I was asking you about a hematoma and a laceration over the right eye of Mr. O'Keefe. Do you
Yes,
recall
sir.
that?
Yes, sir.
I asked you, is being punched in the face, can that lead to a small laceration like you saw and a hematoma like you saw?
Objection.
I'm going to allow it.
Can
we answer that question?
I couldn't
Answer it.
speak to how that injury occurred.
Is it consistent? Are those injuries, just those injuries, are those consistent with being punched in the face?
Those injuries could be sustained from a numerous amount.
Could it be from being
ways.
punched in the face?
Yes,
No.
it could be from that. It could
That-
be from others as well.
Okay, so that's what I'm asking. It could be. In other words, it's consistent
Yes,
with
sir.
being punched in the face, correct? Thank you.
Come on, little buddy. Oh, here come the firefighters. Come the ambulance. Whoop, whoop. It's okay, Dave. Dave Dog's like,
I want to ask you about this statement that you indicate that you heard that now is 3 statements, 3 phrases, correct?
Yes, sir.
When you heard this statement, describe for me exactly where you were and who was around you.
I was knelt at the head of John O'Keefe with a bag valve mask, delivering ventilations. Firefighter Kelly was to the right, and Firefighter Flamati was on the left side of Mr. O'Keefe, and the 3 of us together were working to perform CPR and ventilations.
And your job, and I hate to butcher it, but
Nope.
you'll correct me.
Yes, sir.
Your job was to do the airway, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I'm picturing a big balloon-like apparatus that you put over the patient's mouth and
Exactly.
squeeze it.
Yes.
That's as opposed to it's an advancement on just mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
You were the airway person doing the squeezing of the bag.
Kenzie.
What was Tony Flamati, firefighter Flamati, doing?
He was starting CPR, and which that point was taken over by Firefighter Kelly.
Okay, so firefighter Flamati, when you say starting CPR, describe what that means. What is the physical act of CPR?
So you put both hands together like this, one on top of the other. You put it right on top of the sternum. And
Staying
you begin
alive.
doing chest compressions,
Staying alive.
2 inches deep, allowing full recoil for 100 to 120 beats per minute, compressions a minute to
Sorry.
sustain a cardiac rhythm. You're manually making the heart beat with each compression.
Okay.
Which means that is a rhythmic pumping motion.
Yes, sir.
You're not
If you
wrong.
see someone doing CPR, you're probably going to see their shoulders moving up and down and moving rhythmically.
Correct.
Do you remember what firefighter Flamati was wearing? You had just come off of actually, you were just coming onto a shift, so you didn't have all your foul weather gear officially, correct?
I had my puffy jacket.
Okay.
I had my Canton Fire jacket.
Got it.
Oh, you had a puffy
I'm
jacket.
sorry, firefighter Flamati, on the other hand, had a bright yellow jacket,
Correct.
sort of reflective and a safety jacket.
Yes, sir.
And he was kneeling to your left at the time doing, have I got that right?
Yep. No, yep. You got that right.
Acting
He
it
was
out.
kneeling to your left at the time doing chest compressions. That's when you indicate
Or
that
West.
Miss Reed walked over and made the statement.
Correct.
And Kelly was there as well?
Yes, sir.
Kneeling right beside all 3 of you as firefighter Flamati was giving the chest compressions, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And she was
You
like,
indicated that
hit him, I hit him,
the
I hit him.
statement was in response to a question that you asked of my client. Do you know him?
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Correct.
And she responded to you with the phrase that you've used. I hit him.
Hit him, I hit him, I hit
I
him.
hit him. I hit him. I hit him.
Right.
Not I hit him, I hit him. I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
So it's absolutely clear in your mind when that statement was made. You were knelt down over Mr. O'Keefe. Firefighter Flamati was doing the CPR, and Kelly was with the both of you when you posed that question.
Yes, sir.
It's a very detailed memory.
Yes, sir.
You indicated, Mr. Brennan, that sticks out in your mind.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that right?
It does.
But that's not at all what you told Trooper Proctor on February 8th, just 10 days after this incident, is it?
I don't recall what I told Trooper Proctor.
So you don't
I
recall
think your
much.
memory got better with time.
I don't recall that meeting.
Ooh.
I recall a meeting with him, but I don't recall the extent.
Oh, objection. Alan Jackson is destroying this witness. Sustained. I'm going to sustain it. Okay. Go a little lighter. Okay. Objection. Why does he have to go lighter? Just because this guy's claiming he remembers and then all of a sudden he doesn't remember. Overruled. You're right. All right. Overruled. Judge Joleen has ruled. Keep going, Alan.
To what was discussed.
You literally don't recall anything that was discussed in that.
He don't
in that
recall.
meeting in that formal interview with the lead detective on this case.
We discussed the case, but I don't, and in his words, I'm not sure what he put down.
What you said to Trooper Proctor on February 8th, 10 days after this, was you overheard Miss Reed say, I hit him one time
Uh-oh.
to another female that she was talking to. Correct?
Objection.
No, I'll allow it. Did you say that?
Ooh.
I have no memory of this, Your Honor.
Okay, next question.
Oh my God. I don't remember. I don't recall.
Did you say that her statement was an answer to a question posed by the female or a discussion with the female?
Break that down for me, sir.
Sure.
A woman.
Did you tell Trooper Proctor on February 8th that what you heard was Karen Reed speaking to a female, not answering a question that you posed?
Again, I don't recall that specific question.
Oh my gosh.
Did you tell Trooper Proctor on February 8th while you were rendering aid, and at the time you heard the statement, Miss Reed was actually praying over John? Your words, praying over John.
I don't recall ever saying that.
Can I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
He's like, well, look at his face, you guys. He's like, oh, sir, just tell the truth. It's so much easier if you just tell the truth. Like Judge Judy says, you don't have to have a good memory when you tell the truth. It's okay, buddy. Tell the truth. Oh.
Did you say that you observed Karen Reed to have blood on her face from providing mouth-to-mouth breaths to Mr. O'Keefe
Breath.
prior to your arrival?
I remember Miss Reed having blood on her face, presumably from attempting CPR.
Do you remember telling Trooper Proctor on February 8th that you saw her with blood on her face from CPR?
I do.
So you remember that portion of your conversation with Trooper Proctor, correct?
Yes, sir.
But the praying over John, praying over the victim, you don't remember.
I don't remember ever saying that,
And
ever.
and the statement, I hit him to another female, you also don't remember that.
Oh, sir.
Would it refresh your recollection if you were to look at a report?
Ay, ay, ay.
May I?
Yes.
Kenzie's not dropping it. Like I said, crackhead, lost pipe. Case closed.
May I direct the witness's attention? to the second
Objection.
page, Your Honor?
Get him some crack so he remembers. Sustained. Sustained. Yeah, we're going to get him some crack so he remembers. Now he's going to read his own words. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. You say, I don't know, I don't recall, but then you recall certain things very vividly.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
My approach and give you a little smooch smooch.
So did you have an opportunity to glance at the report that you were just shown?
Yes, sir.
Does that refresh your recollection about your conversation with Trooper Proctor that he put in a report?
It does not, sir.
So as you sit here, you have no memory of what you just read in this report from Trooper Proctor, the lead investigator on the case.
I have no recollection of ever saying that anybody prayed over anybody ever in this case.
You did see it in his report, though.
Sustained.
You've admitted under oath that your memory of the events at that time, from that time frame, January,
Better
February
with time.
2022, is faulty, correct?
No, sir.
Ugh.
In your April 2024, it's April 30th, 2024 testimony from last year.
I'm beginning to think Kenzie is right. It's not
You
just
were
a joke.
asked whether or not your memory was a little faulty, and your answer was absolutely, correct?
Could I have a page and number,
Where is
please?
that, Mr. Jackson?
He doesn't remember anything except for I hit him, I hit him, I
Page
hit him.
151, lines 14 through 16.
Oh, this guy. He's just like,
Lines 14 through 16.
oh.
Law counsel to get that.
If we could pose the entire question and give content to it, please.
What?
May I?
Yeah, so do you intend to show the
You
whole
may.
question?
The whole question that I asked and his answer, yes.
All right, and I'll give you the opportunity. I'm redirecting.
Give me the opportunity.
Go ahead.
Is it true that in answer to the question, quote, so it's fair to say your memory is a little bit faulty as it pertains to that time frame?
Yeah.
Your answer was absolutely. Correct?
From last year?
Oh,
What you testified to last year about conversations that you had with Trooper Proctor around February 8th of 2022.
you said it.
Yes, sir.
And you would agree, as you sit here, that your memory is still faulty about your conversation with him.
With
Correct?
Trooper Proctor? Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
So you're not saying you didn't say that the statement was made to a woman, correct?
Objection.
He doesn't remember talking to a woman.
No, ma'am.
Okay, next
He
question.
gets nervous around a
You're also
woman.
not saying that you didn't say to Trooper Proctor that you saw Karen Reed praying over John O'Keefe.
Objection.
So I'd like you to ask that differently. Did you say that?
I have no recollection.
I
of saying
have no idea, dude. I just remember I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
My point is, if you have no recollection of it, you're not denying saying it.
Objection.
Are you denying saying it?
Yes.
So you do have a recollection that you never said it.
You know you didn't say it.
Do you understand the difference?
No,
Oh,
he
sir,
doesn't.
I don't believe I've ever said praying. That's really not something that I would have said. I didn't see it that day. It didn't happen. I don't remember ever saying prayed
You didn't
in
see
regards
it
to this
that,
case ever.
You didn't see it that day, and it never happened. That was your words just now, correct?
Break that down for me.
You didn't see it that day, and it never happened. That's what you're saying about the praying statement, correct?
Yes, sir.
And in that same exact statement, you also included the phrase, I hit him, correct?
No, sir.
In the statement that you made to Trooper Proctor,
The report that Trooper Proctor wrote?
correct?
You call him Trooper Proctor
Again,
a
I
liar?
don't remember ever saying the words praying over him. I do distinctly remember I hit him.
Which doesn't appear in that report, does it?
Objection.
I'm going to sustain that, Mr. Jackson. You directed him only to page 2.
Huh?
Understood, Your Honor.
Oh, God.
I'd like to show you a short portion of a video, the same video that you were asked to look at on direct examination.
Doesn't remember Alan. Leave him
Your Honor,
alone.
I pray to the court, I can certainly mark it as a defense exhibit or for
So is this
identification.
going to be an exhibit by agreement?
It is.
It
Okay,
is.
So we now that, Madam Court Reporter, thank you.
Shout out to the court reporter. Put your keyboards in the chat for the court reporter. I wish I knew Madam Court Reporter's
Thank you,
name.
Your Honor. With the court's permission,
Shout
may
out to
I
you,
play
lady. You.
a portion of that video for the jurors, publish it.
Okay. Which portion so people know?
I'm going to start it at about, I want to say 6:55. Mr. Walken, could you cue that up?
6:55. Mr. Walken, Christopher Walken, could you cue that up? Thank you. I
Before you
can.
play
Oh,
it, as well, or is it only playing to the screen?
yeah, you guys put the keyboards in the chat. Yeah.
When Ms. Gilman did it, it was both. Great.
There we go.
Oh, we're back to this.
Before we play it,
Tag.
can I ask you a
team,
quick
back
question
again.
about this?
Sure.
He won't remember.
It appears that this is paused. Do you recognize this as being the same video that you were shown this morning by Mr. Brennan?
I do.
All right. Describe the scene.
So that is 34 Fairview Road. The lights in the background, I believe it is either right as we pulled up or right as we're pulling up.
Okay. Same dash cam video.
Sir.
Can we scroll this to the 6:55 runtime spot, please? Pause it. Okay. Do you see the individual on the left? Far left.
Yeah, the jacket?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Who's that?
I believe that's firefighter Flamati.
You previously indicated that when you heard Ms. Reed make this statement, the firefighter Flamati was on his knees providing CPR at the same time you were knelt down providing the airway.
This isn't when it was
That's
stated.
not my question. Is that what you said?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. You indicated earlier when you heard this statement by my client, you were very detailed. Firefighter Flamati was knelt down providing chest compressions at the same time you were knelt down providing airway support for Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
I had also said that at some point,
That's a
firefighter
yes or no
Flamati
question.
had
Objection.
So I'm going to let the witness answer the question.
transferred CPR to firefighter Kelly. Firefighter Kelly did take over compressions at one point.
Okay. That's not my question.
Okay.
My question is an easy one. Did you say that when Ms. Reed walked over to you and you had this dialogue with her, she made that statement that firefighter Flamati was on his knees providing chest compressions at the same time you were knelt down providing airway support?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Firefighter Flamati, your testimony appears to be standing up right there, correct?
Yes, sir.
Let's play the video forward for just a second. Stop it. What did you see firefighter Flamati do just now?
I believe he just knelt down.
Okay. So at this point, he's kneeling for the first time, correct?
Yes, sir.
And he's about to provide chest compressions as your memory serves, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's go ahead and play it forward. Pause. Did you see my client in that photo? I'm sorry, in that clip?
No, sir.
You didn't see her?
Oh, no, I did see her. Yeah. I don't see her on right now.
Right. She just walked off frame, correct?
Sir.
Let's go ahead and play it forward. Stop it.
There she is.
You see my client walk back into the frame.
Yes, sir.
At this point, you were watching firefighter Flamati. He appears to be now providing CPR, correct?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. And my client is nowhere near you, correct? At least for this clip.
No, sir.
Okay.
Correct.
And the clip that I just played before, the few seconds that I played before, nowhere near you, correct? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Let's go ahead and play it forward.
Uh-oh. Turn off your ringers. Here's where she whispers, I hit him. Thanks, Otter. Comes the stretcher.
Pause it, please. What do you see happening on the screen from screen right to screen left at this juncture?
We're bringing in the stretcher.
Okay, go ahead and play it. Pause it. Do you see where my client is right now?
Can you back it up 2 seconds? I'm sorry, I lost
With
view.
the court's permission, I need to ask the
Yes.
court's permission. Thank you. So let's go ahead and play it. Pause. Did you see my client?
Yes, sir.
Where is she in the frame?
Behind that other individual.
Behind the SUV?
I believe she's in front of the SUV and behind the other individual.
Okay. I meant the SUV, that's the white SUV that's in
Yes, sir.
the far distance.
Yes.
That's the back of the SUV. She's behind it, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Not near you.
No.
Okay. Let's go ahead and play it.
Uh-oh. Stretcher comes, not near. There's Karen.
Go ahead and pause it. Do you see what firefighter Flamati is still doing throughout this entire clip?
Chest compressions?
Okay. Let's go ahead and play it. Pause. What's happening now?
Where Mr. O'Keefe's on the scoop stretcher and he's being transferred to the ambulance stretcher.
So that's the entire time Mr. Flamati, firefighter Flamati, was giving chest compressions. It's captured right here on this video, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And now Mr. O'Keefe is up on the stretcher, and you are no longer knelt down,
No, sir.
and firefighter Flamati is no longer knelt down,
No, sir.
and you're now following the stretcher with, it looks like, 2 or 3 other EMTs, correct?
I am not in that frame, sir.
Okay, so you've walked away.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's go ahead and play it forward. Pause it. See where my client is?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and play it. Do you see firefighter Flamati or firefighter Kelly continuing to give chest compressions?
Yes, sir.
Which one is that? Do you know?
Believe it's firefighter Flamati.
Flamati?
Believe so.
Okay, so he's still doing all the chest compressions from start to finish.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what's happening right now?
Now we are transferring to ambulance 1.
And where's my client?
Right front and center.
May I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Nowhere near the body, nowhere near John, nowhere near. Oh, we got secrets. Psst, psst, psst. I got this guy in the bag. Don't worry. Okay, hurry up. Dismantle him. Finish him. Finish him now. And then we can have steak for dinner. Sounds good.
If I may have just a second. With regard, just a couple of more questions with the court's permission.
Okay.
I'm going to change gears with regard to what you talked about on direct examination, the hypothermic conditions. You're not a medical doctor, correct?
No, sir.
You don't diagnose patients?
Sir.
You're not diagnosing that John O'Keefe suffered from hypothermia that night?
No, sir.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Objection. That was a slay. Alan Jackson slayed. Sustained.
Firefighter Nuttall, the video the defense just showed you, did you notice any differences between that video and when I showed it to you, and that it doesn't have the time on it?
Is it inverted?
Yes, those were 2 different time frames on that video.
And when we spoke about when the defendant said to you, I hit him, that wasn't shown to you in that video just now, was it?
No, it was not.
So if we go back,
No, it's I hit him. He's still on the I hit him's.
will you be able to explain where you came from and firefighter Flamati came from and when you first went over to John O'Keefe?
Sure.
With the court's permission, Ms. Gilman, if you could start that video.
Again?
11, please.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Now stop it there. Do you see that this exhibit has timestamp on the top?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please continue.
Oh, just him showing up made me tired. Brennan. Oh, I gotta stretch. Everyone do your stretches. Oh, my butt hurts.
Could you stop, please? Do you see the red lights on the left?
Swap.
Yes, sir.
Is
Swap
that
it.
when you believe that you first arrived?
Yes, sir.
And that note says 6:11:05. Could you continue, please, Ms. Gilman?
We hear Karen screaming, Jen, Jen. We don't hear
Please
her
watch to the
praying
left.
or saying, I hit him, I hit
Stop,
him, I hit
please.
him.
Is that when you first arrive and walk over to help John O'Keefe?
Yes, sir. That's me.
I'll note that the timestamp is 6:11:21. Okay, continue, please. Stop, please. Did you see firefighter Flamati come after you?
Yes, sir.
Was any of this shown to you during those questions?
No, sir.
Continue, please.
Continue, please. She's like, oh my God.
Stop, please. Do you see the defendant in that screen?
Yes, sir.
Do you see her moving from right to left towards you?
Sustained is to the phone.
Okay. What direction do you see her running in that screen from right to left?
She's running towards where the three of us are grouped.
Okay. Please continue.
Objection. I'm bored. Sustained. Pick it up.
Stop, please. Is it at that time the defendant said to you that she hit him?
Yes, sir.
And you remember that?
I do.
I'm done with the tape. Thank you very much.
Wait.
Time the defendant.
Where? Ay, ay, ay.
She's running towards where the three of us are grouped.
Okay. Please continue.
Good to see you, Nancy. Yes, very good to see you. Just like witness said.
Stop, please.
Okay. 6,
Is
12,
it at
11.
that time the defendant said to you that she hit him?
Yes, sir.
But we don't hear
Do
it.
you remember that?
I do.
But
I'm done with the tape. Thank you very much.
there's no audio. We hear her screaming. We hear her say, Jen, Jen.
You were asked questions about your memory.
Yes, sir.
Okay. When you asked the questions about
I hit him. I hit him. I hit him.
Trooper Proctor, when you were saying that you didn't remember, were you referring to the conversation with Trooper Proctor, or were you suggesting you didn't remember what happened that morning?
I don't remember the interview with Trooper Proctor. I remember it happened. I don't remember the substance of what was discussed entirely. I remember we discussed that morning, but
Do you know if that conversation was recorded or just a conversation between you and the trooper?
I do not know if it was recorded.
You asked questions. I want to ask you about questions on Mr. O'Keefe, and you mentioned that there was some type of blood clotting on the back of his head.
Yes, sir.
You noticed there were abrasions on his right arm.
Yes, sir.
You noticed there was a hematoma on the right side of his head.
Yes, sir.
Did you see any bruising on his right knee?
Don't recall, sir.
Did it stand out to you that all of his injuries, all of them that you saw, other than the cut on the back of the head, that they were all on his right side?
Yes, sir.
Did you notice any hematomas on his left side?
I did not.
Did you notice any scratches or abrasions on his left side?
I did not.
Did you notice any marks that would be consistent with an altercation on the left side of his body?
I did not.
You were asked about the cause, and you said that you don't know the cause. You weren't there, were you?
No, sir.
You asked if it was consistent with being punched, and you said it could be.
Yes, sir.
Could it be consistent with being clipped by a car?
Sustained is to the phone.
You were asked questions about clothing.
Clipped,
Yes,
they're
sir.
saying now.
And you had
Clipped.
at one point said you thought that Mr. O'Keefe was wearing a winter jacket. Do you have any memory that when you first got there, or when you first got there, do you have any memory whether there were any towels wrapped around Mr. O'Keefe's head?
I feel like they should just stop it. Do you have any memory? Just that's the only question. Do you have any memory? Do you have any? Okay, so now they're asking if there's towels.
I remember there was a white cloth of some sort on the scene.
Okay. And when you were asked about your memory regarding the clothing, was the clothing of what was utmost importance to you at that time?
No, sir.
No, sir.
And why is that?
I was, again, focused on Mr. O'Keefe's airway and ventilation.
Okay. And when you were asked about the clothing, do you remember if you added anything else about your certainty or uncertainty about clothing when you previously gave a statement or testimony?
I believe when I testified last year, I did note I had no part in removing any articles of clothing or anything like that. That was not my job in the back of the truck.
Do you remember any recognition of the fact whether you were certain or not about clothing?
Repeat the question, sir. Sorry.
Well, is there anything that would refresh your memory about what you had said about clothing?
Sustained.
You had mentioned that you had some difficulty about clothing. Do you remember what you had previously said?
I remember there was some difficulty of getting the individual's fingers through clothing just because they were so cold. They were difficult to manipulate. Just they really was not conducive to getting clothing off easily.
Okay.
You met with me 3 times.
Yes, sir.
I had not met you before any of your prior testimonies, had I?
No, sir.
Do you remember meeting with me and discussing this case with me?
I do.
Do you remember me asking you to tell me what you remember?
I do.
Do you remember what I told you about testimony when you come into court?
Yes, sir.
Or what did I tell you?
I remember we discussed that just tell the truth.
Did I tell you that it doesn't matter? There is no side. Doesn't matter if it helps or hurts, that you just tell the truth?
Sustain.
Did I ever suggest to you that you should stick to a story?
No, sir.
Did I ever suggest to you you should offer your testimony in any certain way?
No, sir.
When I talked to you, did I ever ask you to say anything about your testimony to this jury?
No, sir.
Other than what?
Speak to the jury.
Did I need to tell you to tell the truth?
No, sir.
And in telling the truth, did the defendant say to you, I hit him, I hit him?
Is it I hit him, or I hit him, I hit him, I hit him?
3 times.
And in fact, do you remember, in addition to her
So, Brent, am I wrong, you guys? But as Brennan keeps saying, I hit him. But then we have Timothy Nuttall here saying, no, it was I hit him. I know at first I said I hit him, but now it's I hit him. But Brennan keeps repeating it, I hit him. We can't even get that right.
saying, I hit him when you asked
Okay,
him the
there he
question,
got it right.
over John O'Keefe's body. Do you remember if you ever talked about other times that she said it, not to you?
I do not.
Okay.
The answer is I do not. Next question.
Bev's like, next question. We're done. I got a TT. Come on, Hanky. Hanky Panky Stanky. Maybe I want Lolly back.
Do you remember testifying previously in this case?
Yes, sir.
Sir, what is taking so long? Do you remember my name? Yeah, yes, sir. Thank you, Linda.
Do you remember
Tell your
at
friend.
all discussing whether or not, after she left you, whether or not the defendant was still talking and speaking?
I'm sorry, sir. Repeat the question.
Do you remember after the defendant left you and made that statement to you? Do you remember talking? Did you hear her speak to other people after you?
I heard her having conversations in the background, but that was not my focus at that time.
Okay. And during those conversations in the background, did you hear her talk about that same issue again?
I think he's there, man.
I believe she said it several times, but the 3 times she said it to me were what stuck out to me.
Okay. And when she said it to other people, it wasn't directly to you?
No, sir.
So watch the form of the question, Mr.
And when she said it to-
Stating the objection.
When she said it to other people, do you know who she said it to?
I do not.
I'll allow it. So the answer is I do not.
Do you remember when she said it other times who she said it to?
I'm going to see counsel at sidebar for this.
Oh, shit. They're getting a spanking. Oh, look at that guy. He's like, oh, he is over it. Okay, so is that John O'Keefe's brother's wife with him? And there's the lady that dated him. So I recognize her in the blue blouse or in the blue sweater from all of the interviews, documentaries, stuff like that. And then his friend too. I recognize his friend to the right of her. I got to figure out what's going on with his brother and his brother's wife. Because didn't you guys say that he was having extramaritals? And there's John's mom. I feel bad for her, obviously. And Karen's parents. I feel bad for them as well.
Sir, after the defendant came over to you and spoke and then left,
That's
do you remember
order.
hearing her make further statements?
Yes, sir.
And do you remember her making further statements similar
I do.
to the statement to you?
Yes, sir.
Could you share with the jury what you remember her saying, not to you, but after she left you?
I remember hearing I hit him several other times. Again, not directed to me, just kind of off in the background.
What? So you heard it 2 times, then you heard it 3 times. Now you're hearing it out in the background to other people. Okay.
I'd like to reiterate, we were really focused on the patient at that point. We were trying to provide care.
Thank you, sir.
Holy.
So now, after Mr. Brennan asks you a few questions,
Oh,
now you remember her saying, I hit him a bunch more times.
Alan's back.
Correct?
I remember hearing it in the background several other
Oh,
times.
shit.
Sir,
Never mentioned that on direct examination, did you?
I remember being asked about it, sir. I remember saying what was asked to me.
You were asked, did you ever hear the defendant, Ms. Reed, say anything about I hit him? And your answer was, she said to me, in answer to my question, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him 3 times, and that's it.
To me.
You didn't clarify that, oh my gosh, she's running around like a chicken with her head cut off, screaming, I hit him to everybody else under the sun.
If that was the case, we would have heard it. Like she was running around going, Jen, no. Oh. But we
It
did.
was, again, it was behind me in the background as I was providing patient care. Again, that was not my focus.
Okay, so you didn't really hear her say anything in the background because you weren't focused on that, right?
I remember hearing generalized commotion in the background, but again, that was not our focus.
So generalized commotion is very different than
Specific.
hearing her say, I hit him to other people, correct? You'd agree with that?
Yes, sir.
So what you actually heard was the chaos and the commotion of a chaotic scene, correct? In the background,
In the background.
as you focused on your patient care, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, not specific words coming out of my client's mouth, correct?
To the question that I posed, do you know him?
You're right. We're off that question.
Okay.
That question, I got it.
Yes, sir.
Triple I hitters.
Correct.
But with regard to what Mr. Brennan just asked you, the generalized commotion, to use your phrase, in the background, you didn't hear any specific words coming out of my client's mouth, did you?
I heard I hit him,
Oh, jeez.
but again, it was in the background and it was not my focus.
Well, why didn't you say that on direct? That's kind of an important point.
Yeah.
You're here.
You heard it
Again,
more.
If it was neglected on my part, it was not intentional.
Not intentional to neglect that part for the jurors on direct examination.
No, sir.
Certainly not intentional to neglect that part of your testimony on cross-examination.
No, sir.
But you decided to bring it up on on re-cross-examination when Mr. Brennan is asking you questions again, correct?
It was asked of me. Yes,
And
sir.
it was after, of course, that your new statement that you've never testified to before, ever, is this generalized commotion included a bunch of I hit hims in the background, correct?
Sir.
And that comes after you saw the video that clearly shows that when you describe having heard this statement, my client was nowhere around you, correct?
That segment of the video that you showed me,
Yes.
that was not the time frame in which she said that to me.
Well, that was the time frame when Flamati was giving CPR, correct?
He was doing CPR down prior to that as well.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Well, you just testified that you saw him standing up in a big yellow jacket and then kneel down and start giving CPR. You just watched that video. Correct?
But again, the clip of the video that you showed me,
Right.
that was not the segment in which he said that to me.
Well, that's what you're saying now.
Sir, you're not going to outsmart the attorneys here. Waston Law SLF says, can I ask about the neon cat light if it gets warm or hot at all? Off topic. I know, just curious. I seen your kitties napping beside it. It doesn't, those signs don't really, I thought they'd get warm, but they don't. And that's why I put them where they are. So I'll go, I'll feel them from time to time. I think the cats like sleeping there because I put that little faux rug there and it's really soft and they like anything, you know, soft like that. Because I was hoping they would lay back there so they could be part of the show and not just up here, which I enjoy petting them and stuff. But obviously having them back there where we can see them is even better. But good question. Off topic, but I love it because it's about my little itty bitty kitties.
What I'm asking is, you described a very distinctive scene, a very, very specific scene.
Yes, sir. I remember it vividly.
Tammy, yes, I am.
When Lonnie was down giving CPR and you were kneeling down giving airway support and he was doing rhythmic CPR chest compressions.
Yes, sir. That's what happened.
And then I showed you that very scene, didn't I?
You showed me that clip prior to that.
I showed you the very scene that you described where Flamani gets down and starts chest compressions.
Objection,
Never stops
Tammy.
Until the gurney is
How dare you
taken off
question me?
the
Just kidding. Sustained. You can question. Go ahead.
Sure. I don't know if I can do it yet. I showed you the scene where firefighter Flamani gets down on his knees, begins chest compressions, and never stops until that gurney is taken off camera, off frame, into the ambulance. That's the clip I showed you, correct?
That's the clip you showed me.
And that's exactly when you described your vivid memory from 3.5 years ago. That's exactly the scene that you described when my client supposedly said, I hit him to you, correct?
Again, the clip that you showed me, that was not when it was said.
No.
That segment that you showed, That was not when it was said. It was said prior to that, when the
Yeah.
three of us were together.
So Flamati was not giving chest compressions then.
He was. The CPR was a continuous effort throughout the
But
resuscitation.
we saw him start it. Officer, Firefighter Nuttall, we saw him start it. We saw him walk into the frame, kneel down, and begin the chest compressions, didn't we?
We did.
And at no point at that time or after did my client even approach you. Did she? What?
Objection.
It broke up. I don't know what he said.
Just a question.
Sure,
Mr.
sure.
Jensen.
It's not like he said shit.
Do you need to see the that clip again?
No.
We're
Oh.
not going to show a video again. We've seen 2 videos. Which one is marked?
I agree with Bev on
The-
this one. I don't want to see it again.
The
The
Commonwealth.
one with the timestamp in
Right.
the top?
It's the exact same video. One has timestamp, one doesn't. Just to be clear, you described a very detailed scene in which firefighter Flamati got down on the ground on his knees and began CPR.
Yes, sir.
We saw a clip that it played fully through.
Mhm.
Starts and stops, but it played fully through, correct?
Yes, sir.
That was true and accurate video of what happened that day.
Yes, sir.
That was correct.
Correct.
This is
From the time firefighter Flamati began his CPR, he never stopped. But all the way through until Bernie was taken off the camera, correct?
Correct.
You also described very clearly before you saw the video that the time when my client walked over and you had this dialogue, you heard this statement. It was during the time that firefighter Flamati was given CPR, correct? You described it.
Yes, sir.
But when we actually see firefighter Flamati giving the CPR, as per your description, at no time did my client walk over and have a conversation. Did she?
She did in the video.
well, now we're gonna have to
In
see the
portion
video
that
again.
Mr. Brennan played you. Was firefighter Flamati giving CPR at that point?
As I said previously,
Was
as
he or
well.
was he not? Yes or no?
Objection.
I'm going to let the witness answer the question.
Firefighters Kelly and Flamati were trading off CPR. Tony started doing CPR, and it was passed off at one point to Firefighter Kelly. Firefighter Kelly at that time was a BLS EMT. Firefighter Flamati was a paramedic. They're going to move towards Firefighter Kelly performing CPR because at that time his skill set was not as advanced as Firefighter Flamati's, as Tony's. But they did switch off. That is a routine cardiac arrest. We switch off compressions.
But the video that Mr. Brennan showed you was earlier in time, a few seconds or a minute or two earlier.
Yes, sir.
You'd agree with that, correct?
I would.
And firefighter Flamati had not begun CPR, had he?
I don't believe so.
That's right, he hadn't. But that's the time that my client walked over your general area, correct?
Correct.
Before CPR was started, correct?
CPR was started immediately, sir.
Can we wrap this up?
I don't know if we can, Judge.
Give you a couple more minutes.
Do you understand the confusion?
Objection.
Sustained.
Sustained.
All right, a couple more questions.
Why can't he say, do you understand the confusion? Like, can we get on the same page here? Like,
The video
he's
that Mr. Brennan showed you,
Yes, sir.
and you pointed to and said, oh, that's the time when she walked over and said the statement.
Yes, sir.
Remember that?
I do.
Firefighter Flamati was not even kneeling down giving CPR, was he at that point?
No,
The answer is yes or no?
No.
Okay, he was not. Later, as the video continues to run, at some point, we see firefighter Flamati enter the screen, kneel down in that bright, reflective yellow jacket, and begin CPR, correct?
yes, sir.
You had previously said that when you heard the statement and she walked over to you, it was when firefighter Flamati was giving CPR, correct?
Yes, sir.
And at no point, you'll agree with me, we just played the video, at no point after he started giving CPR, did my client come anywhere near. Isn't that what the video showed?
That was the segment that you showed me.
You indicated on redirect, that Mr. O'Keefe did not have any injuries to the outside of his body.
Not that I recall.
Isn't it true that in addition to the egg on the right side of his head, he also had a black eye on the left side?
I remember that the swelling had started to, it's referred to kind of as raccoon eyes. It's a bruising of both eyes.
Do you
There were
remember
battle
saying-
signs.
Do you remember saying, in answer to the question, did it look like, in addition to the egg on the right side of his head in front of in the front. Did he also have a black eye on the left side? Your answer is, if memory serves correct, yes.
Yes, sir.
So it's not true that he didn't have any injuries on the left side of his body or face, correct?
That swelling kind of migrates over time
Huh?
to both sides. That is a common occurrence for both eyes to be swollen.
Did he have an injury to the left side of his face?
He did not.
Did he have a black left eye?
Yes, he did.
Would you consider a black
That's
eye
an injury.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you the question again then. Did he have an injury to the left side of his face?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Oh my God. Bro. Just answer honestly. Let's try this one again. Are you a liar? Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, I am. Yes, allegedly. Objection. This took too long for something so simple as, did he have an injury to the left side of his face? Oh my God. Yannetti and Alan Jackson are making out a little
You,
bit.
indicated that it was a chaotic scene outside on that front yard.
Yes, sir.
Fire engines, ambulances, patrol vehicles, engines running, diesel engines, flashing lights, people screaming, people talking over the howling wind, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever see the homeowner come out the front door?
Don't recall.
We can't hear him.
Do you recall or you didn't?
I have no idea who the homeowner is.
And you never saw anybody come out of the front door?
No, sir.
Oh, he's asking if he ever saw the homeowner of the house they were at, which is Brian Albert. Did anyone ever come out? He never saw anyone come out. That's all I have.
One issue. Briefly.
Oh, no, Hank.
Want to see counsel at sidebar?
Oh, they're sidebarring. Bev is not happy. Bev is not. Objection. Bev said, wrap it up. And Alan Jackson said, I couldn't. I think he was lying. Now what's Hank going to talk about? I bet you Hank gets to see the video and show the video again.
Sir, to Mr. Jackson's questions, he asked,
Didn't he look like a totally different person? Why did he look like a different person? When he comes back, also I was like, who's that? Who's sitting there? Who from The Sopranos is sitting there? That does not look like the same Timothy Nuttall. Look at right there. That looks like a different man. What's he doing? That's different. Different hairline, different.
Sir, to Mr. Jackson's questions, he asked if you had ever said that you heard the defendant say, I hit him, separate from when she approached you. Do you remember previously
This
testifying
aged him so much.
that you heard her saying, I hit him in the background, separately from you?
Yes, sir.
You remember testifying that before under oath
Yes, sir.
in court?
I do.
Anything, Mr. Jackson?
Oh God, we're still going with him. You're never gonna be done, sir. It's not over. Hit that like if you guys haven't already. We got 105 likes. Let's see if we can hit 200 while we're waiting for this guy to figure out if he can tell the truth. But this has aged him. This looks like a different man. It's aged me too, in fairness. Ay, ay, ay. It's not over. Do 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 do. He's like, let's get steak and mashed potatoes tonight. Ooh, hell yeah. And mushroom, side of mushroom.
Yes.
Just a quick question, Firefighter Nuttall. When you were asked
Nuttall.
to recite your memory of that day on February 8th, 2022, just 10 days after this incident, did you ever say that you heard in the background, I hit him over and over again?
I don't recall.
All right.
When you testified at the grand jury, last question.
Bev,
Testified at the grand jury,
calm it down.
did you ever say that?
I don't recall.
But again, your memory's better now than it was then.
Yes, sir.
Firefighter Nuttall, you are all set. Thank you.
He's like, thank God. I hope there's not another hung jury. I don't want to come back to this. Look at him. He's like, oh.
All right, your next witness, Mr. Brennan.
Objection. Bev. A little less attitude toward Jackson. A little more attitude toward Hank. Sustained. 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 All right. Noodle arms couldn't do it. Goldie says noodle arms. Not noodle arms. John, thank you for saying that. I don't know if you're being sarcastic, but I really like it. John Wilson says this stream is so informative.
Thank you. The Commonwealth calls
Call.
Carrie Roberts.
Oh, it's Kelly. Kelly, 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 Kelly. Now by masking, you'll see my mask drop from my ADHD, and I'm just coming out. I'm coming up. I want the world to
And I
know.
have an exhibit I would like to introduce and
Okay.
play for the jury.
Okay.
And this is clip 2.
No
Hank,
objection from the defense?
Hank the Tank. Carrie Roberts.
Marking this as an exhibit.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Carrie Roberts, not Kelly. Is it Carrie or Kelly?
Do you have something for the court reporter to mark?
Mock. I can mock it.
We can put it on a zip drive. We can discuss collecting all the clips and putting on.
Not a zip drive. Defendant's interview with ID docuseries. Ooh, we're gonna see some Karen Read interviews, you guys. Oh my gosh. Objection. That was very nice of you to say. Sustained. That was very nice of you to say, Jackie. Thank you for loving the gavel. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Same zip drive, or we could use. You have a separate.
Now they're gonna have to talk about what's a zip drive.
Jim, is that right?
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Roberts, please.
Miss Robert.
Thank you.
Carrie or
Would like to play
Kelly.
this first and then call
Oh,
Ms.
okay, I'm
Roberts?
sorry.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Karen's own words. Will this hurt her case? We can't even hear.
I remember it, but I question, do I remember it because it's been relived so much? I mean, when I see the video of me driving from the waterfall, like what I just described, tapping the brakes when I crossed the intersection, Washington over Sherman. Do I do that green light? No, I don't.
What?
You then question. I also was
Can't even hear it.
told to me that I must have said was,
Why is
did
it?
I really say?
Is this just, I don't know if this is just their, okay, if this is just how their stream is, but it's really cutting out on
Is it
this
fair
part.
to say?
Pause.
Yes, sir.
Well, you,
Ugh, not him again. Ah, PTSD.
Circumstance of
Okay. No, no.
Don't recall.
Oh my God, not him again. Get out of here. Get out of my life. Goodbye.
Mark, Your Honor.
Have a nice life. Timothy Nuttall, you nut.
Driving from the waterfall, like what I just described, tapping the brakes when I crossed the intersection, Washington over Sherman.
Okay, it's at regular speed.
That green light? No, I don't.
Possibly witness. Good point.
Then question. I also was
I wish I could hear what she's saying.
told to me that I must have said was, did I really say?
Yeah, it could be copyright. That's the only thing that makes sense. I know. It's acting up, Krista. Sorry. This is from one of the interviews. Oh, I could do see. I wonder if it'll do but with live. I don't know if they have that set up. Unavailable. Closed captions unavailable. Sorry, guys. So whatever she said, we don't know. But I think it was kind of like, I've said the story so many times. It's been said, like, what do I remember? What's created? All that. Look at Bev.
Thank you, Your
Afternoon,
Honor.
Ms. Roberts.
Bev is ready for a pedicure. She's like, get me out of here. I don't know why we can't hear shit. Okay, let me try reloading it one more time. Maybe they're on to me. They're on to me. They're coming for me. But I mean, this is news. Okay. Commentary. Is this Carrie? Oh, I'm going to have to pick a new little area. Why? What is going on?
Children presently.
Okay, let's pause for a second. I am going to find a different stream because this one is being a whole bunghole. I'm going to have to find a way for maybe Hype Man Husband Chill to rig a way where we can record it like I used to with the BB live feeds. Okay, let's see. Karen Reedy, AP. I wonder if AP will strike. Ugh, weirdos, they might. Ay, ay, ay. Can people not watch together? Can we not watch? Are we not entertained? Okay, let me see. If I have a different subscription, that might be live. Okay, well, we don't want to steal Emily D. Baker's because she's giving commentary. I just want to find one that's no commentary. Okay. Hit that like, you guys. All right, let me try again. Let's try. Okay, we don't want to steal Melanie Little's. We don't want to take some guy named Carl. No, he's doing commentary. We just want the case. Not that one. Law and Crime, they'll definitely strike me. They will strike. Okay, let's see. Who's live? Let's try AP and see what happens, guys. Come on, Associated Press. Okay. Well, it's after the fact. We're not streaming it as they're streaming it. So hopefully they won't be weird. Put your fingers crossed in the live chats that they won't be weird and copyright me.
No objection from the defense?
It's louder over here.
Reporter to Mark.
We can put it on a zip
You guys hear
drive.
that?
We can discuss collecting all the clips and putting them on the same zip drive, or we could use different zip drives.
Waterfall, like what I just described, tapping the brakes when I cross.
Okay, so we can hear this actually. We can hear this. We can hear this. All right. Give me a thumbs up as soon as you can hear it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I remember it, but I question do I remember it because it's been relived so much. I mean, when I see the video of me driving from the waterfall, like what I just described, tapping the brakes when I crossed the intersection, Washington over Sherman Street, do I actually remember that I kind of slowly proceeded through that green light? No, I don't actually remember that. But I've seen the video so many times that you then question, did I remember on my own? Or was my memory jogged? But I also wondered, did I say, could I have hit him? Or was it told to me that I said I hit him? And I knew I never could have said that. So the closest I must have said was, did I hit him? I know I said I hit him, but did I really say it as many times as law enforcement's claiming I said it?
Okay, so I remember that
Thank you. I've now called.
from one of the Karen Read documentary interviews I've seen of her saying it's been said so many times by so many people that she did say this. However, when she allegedly said this, there's no audio. And they do have, the police body cam, which we saw so many times. And you would think if so many people heard this and it was loud enough for all these people to hear her say multiple times, I hit him, 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 it would have picked up on the camera and on the audio, and it didn't. So she's kind of explaining something that happens through propaganda and through, someone telling you something happened, this like revisionist history of, well, maybe I did say it. I mean, everyone's saying this one thing. Maybe that did happen. It's kind of like what do they call? I know it's not the same thing, but it's the Mandela effect, where a group of people are like, no, this definitely happened. There was something with like the Publishers Clearinghouse and maybe with Fruit Loops. And you're like, no, that is real. And then they're like, it's not. And you're like, what do you mean it's not real? So, okay. Now let's get to this
Carrie
final
Roberts.
witness of the day, I believe. Carrie Roberts, I think. I'm going to speed it up just a little. You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and partial of the truth. If I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. So help you God? Kind of. The court reporter is like, could you speak up? Could you not object to everything and, and just tell the truth? Because it'll make my job a lot easier because I'm getting a little
All right, Mr. Brennan, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your
Good afternoon,
Honor.
Ms. Roberts.
Good afternoon.
Hi, my name is Carrie Roberts.
Ms. Roberts, where do you live?
I live in Canton, Massachusetts.
How long have you lived in the area for?
I was raised in the Boston area, North Shore, South Shore. I went to high school in Braintree, and I
Okay. How long were you in the area for? Brennan, seriously. Hello, what's your name? My name is Carrie Roberts. Where are you from? From Canton. How long have you lived in the area for?
moved to Canton about 12 years ago.
Do you live alone?
No, I live with my husband,
Okay, calm down, creep.
2 children.
How old are your children presently this day?
Do we really need to know how old our children are?
Hey,
My son is 13, my daughter's 15.
do you work?
Yes, I do.
Without identifying specifically where, can you share with
How much do you make? How hard do you work? Can you send me an email of everything you got done this week?
us a little bit about what you do?
I'm an executive assistant, and I've been with my company for 18 years.
Ma'am, if you could just move the microphone just a tiny bit closer.
I hate that
Thank you
noise.
very much. You have 2 children, you're
Yes.
married,
Yes,
and you live in the area.
yes.
Yes. What, are you trying to date
I
her?
want you to tell us whether you know a person by the name of John O'Keefe.
Yes, I do.
Would you be willing to share with us when you first met Mr. O'Keefe?
Well, I went to high school with John in Braintree.
Oh, damn.
He played soccer, I played soccer, so we probably hung out in middle school, but we went to 2 different middle schools.
Soccer buddies.
And then I hung out with him more in high school. He was a year older than me. His sister was 2 years older than him in school, and his brother was younger. So at some point, I was in high school with each of his siblings.
Did you at some point become friendly with John O'Keefe?
Yes.
Could you tell us about that?
When his sister Kristen passed away, and then her husband Steve passed away, John, they lived in my neighborhood. John took over for the children and moved into my neighborhood as well.
When John took in the children, did you offer any assistance or any help to him?
Yes, before John was even going to take over, he was going to potentially move in with his brother-in-law and the children to help out. And then when his brother-in-law passed away unexpectedly, John took over, and I jumped in because I was a friend from high school that he knew, and he had all kinds of people helping, but he sort of said, I'm going to lean on you for right now because I know you best.
Okay.
And I knew his parents and his siblings. And so I introduced him to my husband, and we jumped in. It was, preschool drop-offs, preschool pickups for my son and
Be right
his
back,
son.
guys. Keep listening for me.
And just from then until the time of his death, we were just friends, very close friends, and we hung out all the time. The children hung out all the time, and he was the emergency contact list at my children's school to call if something had happened.
Were you close friends before he took over the care of the children?
No, I wasn't very close friends with him then.
Were you close with his family before he took over care of the children?
No.
Did your friendship with him develop after he took care of the children?
Yes.
You mentioned you have a son,
Yes, I do.
and is your son the same age as John's nephew?
Yes.
Was there any common interests or activities that engaged your son with John's nephew?
Well, they went to in-home daycare together. They went to preschool together. They went to pre-K together. And they went to elementary school. They played baseball together since they were T-ball. My son plays hockey. Patrick tried hockey. He didn't like that. So we spent a lot of time at the baseball fields together.
As you spent a lot of time together and had mutual care of children, did your relationship with him grow closer?
Yes.
And can you share a little bit with the jury how close you became?
Well, John was a bachelor and he didn't have any children of his own. So when he took over for the children, he sort of, leaned on us to kind of guide him and, all the things to do if someone has a headache and, if there's an ear infection or, he had his mom and dad also helping as well, but I was right up the street. So if I would go to BJ's, I would call and say, can I grab you anything? If I would go to Walmart, any of the places I would go, I would call and say, do you need anything? Can I help you? Can I grab something for you? And he did the same. We just sort of all chipped in, helped.
As your friendship grew, could you tell us a little bit about your relationship with John?
John and I were very close. We spoke on the phone and hung out. He became very close with my husband as well because he was right down the street. But we just had a friendship, a very close friendship.
Tell us about the day-to-day activities and how you would try to assist John with the children.
Well, John moved across town. I don't remember when. I forget how many. Patrick, I think, was in 5th grade or 4th grade. And I would take him home with me on Wednesdays because John would be working. So It was more of a, you know, if he was at my house, my daughter needed a ride the other side of town, he would take her with him. We were just very close friends. We did a lot together. We would do baseball tournaments together. We would have drinks together. We would, you know.
So they were very close. I'm going to fast forward a little bit and see what we're asking this lady.
On January 28, 2022, do you remember that day?
Yes.
Generally, what do you remember about the day of January 28, 2022?
There was a blizzard coming, and it was my daughter's friend's birthday. So we were going to be going out celebrating that night, but we did it on the early side because there was a blizzard coming.
What was your plan for that evening?
We went bowling. We got dinner, then we went bowling, and then I came home because I wanted to be in before the snow started.
Had you communicated in any way with John that day?
Yes, he texted me. My son had an issue at school. Patrick had been dismissed, I think, for a doctor's appointment. So he did text me to see how my son was doing.
Did you simply text or did you get a chance to speak to him that day?
I believe no, I did not.
Was your husband home?
Yes,
Did he go out that night?
he did. He went out with John.
Where's my treat?
Do you know where he was planning on going?
They went to McCarthy's, a bar in Canton Center.
Had you been to McCarthy's before?
Yes.
Can you just briefly describe what McCarthy's is?
It's a restaurant bar. There's a large bar in the member. Exactly. I don't know if I got home and then he went out, or if he was already gone when I got home. I don't remember, but it was he went out around the same time that I arrived home, which was on the earlier side.
Taking some menopause
How many
gummies.
times had you been to John's home, would you say, over
They're the
past couple
sponsor of
years
this
before
stream.
night?
Just kidding.
Oh, many
Many times?
times.
Were you familiar with the house in the driveway?
Yes.
May I approach you on?
Yes.
Menno by O Positive Health. When you're watching a trial and you're like, what the fuck are they talking about? And you start to have a hot flash and you're freaking out and your hormones are going all over the place. And why does that have to happen to women? Take a Menno.
Should I return to the podium and ask a question?
You can ask them from there.
Thank you.
Delish.
Ma'am, I'd ask you to take a look at that photo in front of you. Do you recognize what is in that photo?
That is John's house.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction of how his house looks?
Yes, it is.
I'd like to move this to evidence, please.
Okay, any objection?
No objection.
I have an objection.
May
What
I
is
publish
this
to the
all
jury,
about?
Your Honor?
Yes.
What's this all about?
Thank you. Thank you. You can take it down. I've shown you a second photo. Do you recognize what's in that photo?
Yes, that's John's driveway.
Is that a fair and accurate depiction of how John's driveway appears?
Yes, it is.
I'd move that into evidence. No objection.
What's her name? Carrie Roberts.
May I publish?
Yes.
Carrie Roberts.
Good.
Oh, she was one that was with Karen, right?
Thank you. I'm showing you a third photo. Do you recognize what's in that photo?
Yes.
And could you share with the jury what's in that photo?
It's the side of John's house looking up from the driveway.
Is there anything you notice on the side of the house?
The lights or the ring camera.
Are you guessing or do you know that's a
No,
ring camera?
I know there's one there.
And how do you know that?
Jesus, be a little nicer. My God, Hank, she is a guest.
Because I got a ring camera and I could look and see who was at my door. And then he said, why didn't you tell me about these things? So he bought one.
I move to introduce this photo.
Okay.
Yes, Jackie.
Thank you.
I just started taking them. So far, so good. So it's help with hot flashes, night
May I
sweat,
publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
occasional sleeplessness, and mood swings. And I'm not moody anymore. I'm so
Ms.
happy.
Roberts, with the laser
Oh,
pointer,
you
could you
said
just point at the picture and show where the ring camera is?
Oh,
On this screen,
Hank,
Yes, please.
Whichever one you
Hank,
can.
Hank, booty stank.
why isn't it working?
Nope.
It's on.
Okay, well, you know what? Rather than use the pointer, why don't we describe?
Technical difficulties. Hank, you're not being very inviting to this witness.
More than 50.
How many times would you guess you had been over to his house?
I don't know. More than 50,000. I don't even know. A lot.
50,000.
It was weekly.
Damn.
That night, you told us that your husband went out to meet John at McCarthy's, a bar.
Yes, he did.
Do you remember your husband coming home that night?
Yes.
Do you have any memory of about what time he returned?
You love him?
I'm
At
guessing, but somewhere around 10:30.
So I'm not going to let you guess. Do you know? Do you have a-
I don't know. It was around 10 or 10:30. I can't be exact.
No, no.
Did you see him come home?
Yes.
What was the forecast for that night and the next morning?
There was a blizzard coming.
Was
What?
that part of the decision making of going out or staying home?
Yes.
At that time, when your husband came home, did you look outside? Do you have any memory of what the weather looked like around 10:30?
I remember the snow started to fall somewhere around 12 because I remember looking out the window and I could see it starting.
And that was the beginning of the snowfall?
I believe so.
What was the weather out that night?
The weather that night, I think was fine. It was cold, but it wasn't snowing yet.
I want to move forward ahead.
Oh, he's asking about the
At
weather.
some point that night, did you go to sleep?
Yes, I did.
You guys do?
Did you sleep through the night, Ms.
So far,
Roberts?
so good.
Yes, I did.
At some point, did you wake up?
Yes, I did.
I want you to tell us what was the reason that you woke up.
I got a phone call at 5 o'clock in the morning from Karen Read.
Were you expecting a call?
No, I was not.
Had you ever received a call at 5 in the morning from Miss Reed before?
No.
Share with us what happened that morning. What did you hear?
Karen called and the first thing she said was, Carrie, John's dead. And then she hung up.
Carrie. Okay.
And then
When she said that, did you have a chance to have a conversation with her?
no, I did not.
These people really believe in the rule of threes. Everything's Carrie. I hit him. They really love the rule of threes. Yes, for anyone asking, I was holding up these Menno. They do not pay me. They don't sponsor me. Maybe one day we can get them to, but they are the O Positive Health. I got a bunch of supplements recently just because I wanted to and feel better as I'm clearly in perimenopause and just enjoying every second of it. But so far, I like these gummies. You take 2 a day and they help with hot flashes, night sweats, occasional sleeplessness, and mood swings. They're vegan. They're a little dietary supplement, and they're kind of tasty. And they're modern menopause support. Don't sweat it with Menno. So that's what I was taking. A little treat for me, a little treat for the dogs, and then poor Cordelia is like, what the fudge? Where's mine? Okay, so let's get back into Carrie Roberts, one of the ladies that Karen Read called. It was like, Carrie.
Describe her demeanor when she said that.
She was yelling loud enough, my name, I think it was 3 times, it might have been 2. She was yelling loud enough that she woke my husband.
Your husband was sleeping next to you?
Yes, he was.
Was she loud, yelling, screaming?
Yes, she was very loud. She was screaming.
After she said, Carrie, John's dead, did you know what she meant?
No,
And did you say this was around 5:15?
this was at 5. She called me at 5 on the dot.
After she hung up, what did you do?
I was half asleep still. I didn't know what was going on. So I started to get up and I think I tried to call her back. I know I tried to call her back, but I don't know exactly when because I was like, what? So my husband said, what was that? I said, I don't know. Something's going on. I don't know what's going on. That was Karen. And then I tried to call her back. I know I tried to call her back, but I don't know if she answered or if she called me back the next time I spoke to her.
Mary.
After she called you again, did you have another discussion or did you hear her say something else the second time you spoke to her?
Yes, the second time she said, I think something happened to John. I think he got hit by a plow. He didn't come home last night. Haley was home. He would never leave her by herself, and I was not supposed to stay at the house last night. So I think something happened to him.
Did she say anything about drinking?
Yes, she said, we drank so much, I don't remember anything from last night. And I said, okay, where are you now? She said, I'm driving. And I said, you need to go home. Where's Kaylee? And she said, at home. I said, you need to go home and be with Kaylee. She cannot handle this, thinking, her uncle's missing. I said, you're going to get a DUI. You need to go home.
Was there anything else in the conversation that she said to you at that time?
She said, I'm going to drive to your house. Would you drive my car? And I said, yes. So at that point, I started to get dressed. I turned on the automatic car starter so it would warm up. Told my husband, I don't know what's going on. John didn't come home. And so I think my husband tried to call him and I tried to call him. And my husband said, you're not going anywhere. It's a blizzard. He's probably on somebody's couch. And I was like, I know, but she's really upset. I'm just going to go. She wants to come here. I'm going to drive her car. And then I went out to my car and sat and waited for her.
When you called John, did you get any response?
No, I did not.
As you were waiting for the defendant, did you make any other phone calls?
I did. When I was in the car, I thought to myself, well, she thinks he got hit by a plow. I'm going to call the police and see if there was any accidents or maybe something happened. They brought him in. And I spoke to the officer who said, no, nothing of that sort. I've been here all night. And then I called the Good Samaritan Hospital and Milton Hospital to see if they had anybody that was taken in an accident.
When you called the police to look for Mr. O'Keefe, did you call 911?
No, I called the non-emergency line.
Do you know if that call was recorded?
I believe so.
I'd like to introduce an exhibit.
So you knew it was recorded. You have the exhibit. Oh my God. I'm going to fast forward just a bit, you guys.
I wasn't super worried. I mean, he didn't come home, but they were, she was.
I'm going to get to, oh, Dave, don't scratch your face. Come here. I'm gonna go to the hopefully, is there a cross? Do we have Alan Jackson cross during this or not? Or is that tomorrow? Let me look. Let me just look at the update and see if they finished this testimony. Okay. Defense will wait until well into the trial before deciding if Reed will take the stand, an analyst just said. The jury's hearing evidence. We know that. Carrie Roberts described the moment karenread. So are we going to get any from Alan? Alan. Let me just fast forward a bit.
Said, no, we're going to go to Meadows and we're going to drop the car and we're going to look there.
That ARCA is under of their decisions. We will not have the ability to.
Oh, they did a break. Oh, yeah.
Actions.
Did you begin your way towards Meadows? Do you recognize it as a fair depiction of the motor vehicle?
This point was I just wanted to check the house.
I don't know. Yeah, wait a minute. Did you get it drive last night? No. No. Okay. Again, it's more, it would be driven by, you would have to, call in a consultation.
So I think this is the call she made to the non-emergency. Okay, bye-bye.
Were you in your car when you called the police station in the hospitals looking for John?
Yes, he was.
Do you know at that point whether anybody else had called the police station?
No, I don't know.
Do you know at that point if anybody else had called any hospitals?
I don't know.
How long did you wait in your driveway?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Maybe like 7 minutes, 8 minutes.
What were the conditions like out that morning?
It was bad. It was in the middle of a blizzard.
When you were outside in your car in the driveway waiting, describe the lighting conditions for us.
It was still dark out. It was 5 o'clock in the morning and it was snowing. So it was not great.
How was the visibility?
Not great. It was coming down really fast at that point.
You said that night when you went to bed, the snow just started. Had snow accumulated at that point?
No, I don't think so. No. Again, I don't know if I called her or she called me, but eventually we connected on the phone and she said,
Do you know if there was snow? Do you know how much snow? Do you know what the precipitation was like? Was it like the kind of snow that's heavy, kind of wet? Or was it ice snow? Was there black ice? Do you know about black ice? You can't see it. It sneaks up on you and then you're on it and it's too late and you're spinning out of control on 94. Okay.
I said, where are you? I'm waiting. And she said, I'm at Jen's house. And I said, Jen, who? And she said, McCabe, she's going to drive my car. And I said, okay, well, listen, they don't want cars on the road because it's so bad. I'm already in my car. I'll come there to Jen's house, stay there, and we'll follow each other and we'll go back and drop your car off. Did you look in the house for John? Could he just be in the house, pass out somewhere? And she said, no, she hadn't looked in the house. So I said, okay, now I'm going to come to Jen's. We're going to take the car home, drop it off. We'll check around the house. And then I don't know what the next step at this point was. I just wanted to check the house.
At the time you directed that you were going to meet at Jen McCabe's house and then drive to John's house, was there any suggestion by the defendant where she wanted to go?
I didn't know where Jen's house was. I knew the street. I had dropping Kaylee off or picked her up a few times. So I said, stay on the phone with me. So I don't know which house it is. And so when I got there, I pulled in the driveway and there was some conversation about.
Can I back you up and just ask you a little bit about the drive there? I don't mean to interrupt. When you left your house, you talked a little bit about the weather conditions. How long did it take you to get from your home to Jen McCabe's?
Oh, it's quick. Probably 4 minutes.
What was the driving like?
It was not good driving. That's why I didn't want 2 cars on the road.
She wanted 2
Did
cars.
you have any difficulty driving through that storm?
No, I mean, it was treacherous, but I was in 4-wheel drive. I have an SUV.
It was
You
treacherous.
mentioned you didn't know exactly where Jen McCabe lived. Had you been there to drop off John's niece before?
Yes, but I didn't know which house it was because when I picked her up before, she was either getting out of the car at the driveway or waiting at the end of the driveway. So I didn't know which house it was.
I think I interrupted you, but were you telling us that as you drove to Jen McCabe's house, you were on a Bluetooth, on an open conversation with her to help with directions?
Yes, Jen and Karen were in Karen's car and I was on the phone essentially with both of them.
Do you know what type of vehicle the defendant was driving at that time?
A Lexus SUV.
As you drove over to Jen McCabe's home and you had some guidance finding it, did you hear any conversations in that open line with, or even any statements by the defendant?
I remember when I pulled in behind her car in Jen's driveway. And at some point, Karen said, my taillight. And I looked and Jen she must have had the breakdown because you could see that there was missing taillight.
When you say missing taillight, was it merely cracked?
No, there was a piece missing.
Could you see that as you were parked right behind the defendant's SUV or Lexus?
She must have been applying the brakes because you could see it, but there was a lot of snow.
When you saw that the taillight had a missing piece, did you say anything?
No,
Did you think anything of it?
no.
How long were you parked behind the defendant's Lexus while it was parked in Ms. McCabe's driveway?
Not long. We were just, I pulled in and then we stopped. And then the next plan, at some point in that conversation as well, or maybe on the ride, because now we're heading to John's house to drop a car off. I pulled out of the driveway, Jen pulled out, and I followed behind all the way to John's house. And at some point, Karen said, I left him at Waterfall. And I heard Jen say, no, I saw you pull up in front of my sister's.
Was anything else said about the broken taillight?
No.
You followed Ms. McCabe?
Yes.
Where did you go?
To John's house.
Did you arrive?
Yes.
I want to ask you some questions about when you arrived and what you did next.
Okay.
When you arrived at Mr. O'Keefe's home, you're in two separate cars. Who pulled into Mr. O'Keefe's driveway first?
Jen pulled Karen's car in first.
So Ms. McCabe was driving the Lexus
Correct.
and the defendant was in the passenger seat?
Yes.
After you both pulled in, tell us what happens next.
We went, I wasn't sure if it was, at some point Karen showed us the taillight up close, but I didn't know if it was when we arrived or when we left. But we went into the house to look for John.
When the Lexus was parked by Ms. McCabe in Mr. O'Keefe's driveway, was it facing the street or facing away?
Facing where the basketball hoop is, not facing the street.
Like to approach?
Okay.
He would like to approach. Congrats. I gave out some memberships, you guys. I might do it again. I gifted 5. YouTube selects them randomly,
I'm
so
showing you a photograph.
congratulations if you
Do
got them.
recognize who's in that photograph?
Yes, that's John's driveway. That's Karen's car on the left and John's car on the right.
Do you recognize both those cars?
Yes, I do.
Do you recognize that photo as a fair depiction of his driveway?
Yes,
Do you recognize it as a fair depiction of the motor vehicles?
yes.
Now, when you went there that night and you pulled in behind,
This guy is just Hank, your booty stinks. Did you do this? Did you do? He's not even kind of looking at her. It's a little serial killery, it's a tad serial killery vibes.
Ms. McCabe and the defendant, is there any differences between how that area looked?
It's like a little what's that show? Why am I thinking Big Brain Theory? It's not Big Bang Theory. It's a little Big Bang Theory and a little serial killery.
You pulled in as opposed to that photo.
Well, it was the early hours of the morning, so it was dark out and there was much more snow. And there was
Other
snow
than
coming down.
I'm so sorry. You want to think?
Nope.
Other than the snow and the lighting, is there any other differences?
Nope.
I'd like to introduce this as an exhibit, please.
All right.
Oh
There's no
my
objections to Jackson.
Make it stop. Make it stop, Hank.
With the court's permission, I'd like to publish.
Okay.
I would like to tuck in everybody's shirts. Hank, calm down. You can't tuck in other people's shirts without their consent. I'd like to do that.
And to help us understand, you see on the left is the house.
Yes,
There's a motor vehicle in the middle of the driveway, but it's the vehicle to the left.
yes.
And whose vehicle is that?
That's Karen's.
Yes.
Is that where it was parked that night when you went into the house?
Yes,
And the motor vehicle to the right, you recognize that?
that's John's car or SUV.
Okay.
Thank you, you can take that down. I'm showing you a second photo.
Okay.
Do you recognize that photo?
Yes,
What is it?
it's the back of Karen's car.
Does it look like a fair and accurate depiction of her car as it appeared that morning, in the early morning hours to you?
Yes,
Do you notice anything that's distinguished in that photo?
the piece that's missing in the taillight.
Which one?
The right passenger rear.
On the passenger side
Do you know
of
when-
his best
do you
friend
know when this
ride.
photo was actually taken?
I do not.
Although you don't know when it was taken, is that a similar depiction to your memory of how it appeared that morning at 5
Yes,
or a little after 5?
yes.
I moved to introduce this exhibit.
Okay.
No objection.
No objection. We got it.
Yes.
On the passenger side of his best friend's ride, trying to holler at me. Whoop, there's Karen's car. Snow-capped
Take that down.
mountains white.
After you arrived at Mr. O'Keefe's house, what was the plan to go inside? What were you looking to do?
To go inside and look and see if he was passed out somewhere. So we went in through the garage and I started looking. I think Jen ran upstairs to Kaylee's bedroom and I just started looking through the living room. Basement door was locked from the inside, so I knew he wasn't in the basement. And then I checked the other living room. He has a big house. Then I went to the top of the stairs to check his bedroom.
So he has a big house.
As you looked around, what was your mood?
What was my mood?
Yes, were you calm?
I mean, I was worried. So we would, at this point, Jen had already established that they went to her sister's.
She stayed.
Okay.
Jen had already
No, let
told
me ask the question.
Mr.
I'll ask the question better. My apologies. How many rooms did you look through in John's house?
10, 3.
1, 2, 5 or 6.
Did you see Miss McCabe looking
2,
in
4,
rooms
6,
as well,
8.
searching?
She went upstairs when I was looking downstairs.
At some point, as you were looking, did you see the defendant?
Yes,
Was she looking with you?
she was in John's room.
What was she doing?
She was just standing there when I came up to the top of the stairs.
Did she say anything?
No.
Did she do anything?
No.
Was she searching?
I don't know. She was in the room.
What happened next?
At some point, Jen earlier had said,
Well, let's not talk about what was said. Okay. Let's
Well,
just talk about
your
as
plan
best
at
you
this
can.
point.
You-
Objection.
remember the
Sorry,
case.
Ms.
Hearsay.
Roberts, I know. I'm just going to ask you to wait for a question because we can only get one person at a time. So next question.
Think of the court reporter. How is she going to go if you guys are talking over each other? Objection, hearsay, objection. Also, wait for the question. Sustained.
Mr. Brennan.
Again, my apologies. And so as you're looking through the house, you don't find John. What happens next?
the plan was to go back to Jen's sister's house.
We found a pack of Gushers. We shared it. There was only one left. It was kind of stale, but we were hungry.
Who made that plan?
Karen wanted to go back there.
Well, tell us a little bit about that. How did that conversation come up, and share with the jury what was said?
In the car ride to Meadows, Karen said, I left him at Waterfall. And Jen said, no, I saw you pull up in front of my sister's. So then Karen said, we need to go back to your sister's. And I said, no, we're going to go to Meadows and we're going to drop the car and we're going to look there. Then we'll go there if we don't find him.
When you were at the house, Meadows, John O'Keefe's house, and you didn't find him, was there any further conversation about what the next steps would be?
I said, let's go. He's not here. But I didn't know where Jen's sister lived. So we got into the car. Jen was in the passenger seat. I was driving my car. Karen was in the back seat.
Did you
And Jen
begin,
was giving directions.
did you begin your way towards
Right,
Meadows?
Jewel?
And it was Ms. McCabe who was giving directions?
Yes.
As you began driving to head towards Meadows, in addition to trying to drive, were you doing anything like looking or searching?
Well, yeah. We were looking on both sides of the I was looking
was
on both sides of the
texting.
road in case he was walking home.
Did you see Ms. McCabe searching?
Yes, she was looking out as well.
Describe a little detail about what you saw Ms. McCabe doing.
She was looking out the window as we were driving. So was I, as I was driving.
And where was the defendant during that time?
She was in the back seat.
Was there any conversation, comments, statements?
She was playing Candy Crush.
Well, she would be in the back seat and then she would be in between Jen and I.
Oh, this is when they're like, she was all over us. She was in the middle. She was screaming. She was yelling. She was touching us. It was gross. We hate her.
In the back seat and then in between Jen and I. She was just very frantic.
Was she saying anything?
There was conversation on the way there.
I hit him. I hit him.
Was
I
she
hit him. I hit
looking
him.
as well? Did you see her
4
looking out the
times.
windows like you and Jen?
I don't know if she was because she was in the back seat.
As you drove to Meadows, what was the visibility? The same or better, worse?
No, it was poor.
Did you make your way towards Meadows?
I did.
Making my way towards
Um,
Meadows.
As
Driving
you finally got to
slow
Meadows,
in a
was
blizzard.
the house on your left side, your side, or on the other side?
Are you talking about Fairview or Meadows?
I'm sorry, Fairview.
Okay.
Man, your side, our side, their side. Man, it's all bullshit. Name that movie. Patrick Dempsey. Their side, our side. Man, it's all bullshit.
Fairview house came up on the left-hand side.
Before you got to the house, is there a tree line between that house and the house before it?
Yes. There's a cluster of trees and bushes.
All right, take us back. I want to talk about that morning.
Oh,
As you're driving and approaching Fairview, tell us what you hear, what you see.
got it,
what's
silly
happening.
goose.
Jen's giving directions. And
You
it was
win.
really bad driving. I
Then
was
a pause.
white knuckling because it was getting slippery. Karen wouldn't put on her seatbelt.
Uh-oh.
She was in between us again the whole ride and then sitting back. But
Karen, that troublemaker, she wouldn't put her seatbelt on. She was screaming, "Where's John? I hit him! I hit him! I hit him! I hit him!"
she was worried because we weren't finding John.
You having words?
Yes.
These ladies did not like Karen Read. They're like, "Shut up, Karen! Quit overreacting just because your boyfriend's missing in a blizzard."
Tell us.
I said to Jen, where are we heading? And she said, my sister lives on Fairview. I said, where is that? She said, off of Chapman. I said, oh, okay, near Spring Lane. At some point, Bella's mom came up.
Tell me what that means.
I didn't know who it was, but it was one of Kaylee's friends, Bella's mom.
Mom.
The directions. At some point, Karen was talking about Bella's mom to Jen, saying she never liked me. I didn't know who this woman was that they were talking about, but apparently Bella's mom lived near where Jen's sister lived on Fairview.
So
Did
Karen,
you learn any more
giving you
about
the
the
tea.
relevance of Bella's mom?
No. Oh, well, I think John had dated her.
I'm going to allow it.
She looks pissed that he said objection. She's like, objection? What is this, a trial?
Learn any more about the relevance of Bella's mom?
No. Oh, well, I think John had dated her.
She's like, do you guys see her face? Like, are you going to object to that? I think John dated her. Big deal.
I'm going to allow it.
So as you approached Fairview, tell us what happened.
As we approached Fairview at the house. You mean the house or the street?
Yes, the
The
house.
house. Jen said, my sister's house is right up here. And I said, okay. And as we approached the house, Karen from the backseat is now screaming, there he is, let me the F out of this car. And she's
There he
kicking
is.
the back door to get out.
When you heard the defendant scream, there he is, and started kicking the car door, did you see anything?
I did not.
Did you see anybody?
I did not.
Did you look?
I looked.
Was there anything that impeded your ability to see far?
No, it was just snow.
How far could you see when she was yelling, there he is?
How far could I see?
Yes.
I mean, the visibility wasn't great.
Okay. Was she pointing or giving any direction?
No, she just said, there he is.
Okay. What happens next?
And then I unlocked the car.
Shut
I
up.
looked over, I didn't see anything. And I unlocked it so she could get out of the back seat. I looked at Jen and I said, she's crazy. And then I turned around and watched, and she ran.
Damn, with friends like these, even though I don't really think they're her friends, but she's crazy. Look at this crazy bitch. Her boyfriend's missing and she's acting like cuckoo.
And over to a mound of snow.
I did not like Karen.
And she started running before she got anywhere. Did you see anything at that point?
I did not.
Were you looking?
I was looking. She said, there he is. So I'm looking around to see where he is.
And you could see nothing?
I did not.
Did you see her run around or directly?
She ran right over to the mound of snow.
Could you tell what the mound of snow was from the car?
Once she got to it, yes, it was. Once she got to it, you could tell it was a mound of snow that was the length of a body.
All right, I'm going to stop you there, Mr. Brennan. I need to see counsel at sidebar for just a minute, please.
Bev, why? You guys gonna do smoochies? Are you doing illicit smoochies? Where's the brother's wife go? She's like, I only promised you an hour today. Where's your little whore? How come she can't be here with you? Allegedly.
So, Ms. Roberts, please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent.
Are we done with her for the day? Is that what they're deciding? Auntie Bev's like, that's enough.
So we're going to send you home. All right, so Ms. Roberts, we're going to have you come back tomorrow.
Okay, we're gonna finish her tomorrow.
Jurors, we're going to break for today, so we're going to send you home.
We're
Same
breaking for
precautions
today.
I'll tell you every single day.
She's like, don't go on Reddit, don't go on Instagram, don't go on Twitter, because it'll never be X to me. Don't go on the TikTok. Don't go on Blue Sky. Don't go on Threads. Don't go anywhere.
Okay, please do
Don't go on
not discuss
Friendster,
this case with
MySpace.
anyone. Don't
Don't FaceTime
do
people.
any independent research or
Don't watch Joleen Lunzer's YouTube channel.
investigation in this case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case, please disregard it.
We can track your phones.
Let us know. Please be extra careful with
Be extra careful. Otherwise, this is gonna be longer than Mama Bev, than Auntie Bev wants it to be.
We'll see you tomorrow morning.
All right, goodbye. Goodbye,
All right,
everybody.
please. Jurors, hold your books, put them on your seats.
All rise. All rise. Oh, day one, you guys. Day one. Start over again. Step one. Shout out to Alanis Morissette. Holy buckets. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this every day, but we're definitely going to talk about it. I just wanted to see what it would be like to kind of stream it. Just a little behind, but keeping up. Let me know if you guys liked this, and then I'll try. But holy bucket, sitting here, I have chafing. I wore jeans. What was I thinking? I have jeans, you guys. I got some new jeans, and now my legs are chafed. So next time it's going to be jammy pants. I was like, I woke up early, took a shower, and I told my husband, Chell, was getting ready. It's his last week of school before he graduates on Friday. And I said, I have court. He's like, why are you up so early? I'm like, I have court. I have court today. Okay. My trial starts. I'm taking it very serious, obviously. You guys have been wonderful. Thank you so much. We are 3.5 hours. Okay. And I loved all of your comments in the live chat. Thank you so much. Shout out to our super chatter today. And that was Indiana Girl Jules. Shout out to Upon the Wire for becoming a new member. We will do a members only this week. So that'll be cool. Let me gift 5 more memberships before we get out of here, because I appreciate you guys so very much and going on this ride with me. If you have friends who you think would be interested in hanging out with us and the kind of content I create, please share my channel as we try to make our way to 50K. Can we do it? We'll see. Okay. I'm going to gift 5 memberships here, and boom, bottom. Okay. Let's see who's going to win. Who will YouTube choose? And the winners are, okay, let me see. Okay, it says I gifted, and now let me look. I have to go to the YouTube tab. All right, Jewel got a membership. Mallory got a membership. Let's Let's see. Jess Johnston got a membership. Heather got a membership. Alicia got a membership. I think that's all. I think that's all of them. Yay. Congratulations, you guys. Go check out bonus content. Use your emojis, your members only emojis, all the stuff. We'll have a members only for all of our members. If you do want to sign up for the membership, the link is in the description, right? 3.5 hours. And I was stimming. Okay. But you guys, you're my beautiful pumpkin spice babies, and I appreciate you guys so much. So don't forget to comment after the video post. Let me know what you thought of this, okay? All your thoughts, hopes, dreams, and opinions. Follow me on social media at Joleen Lunzer if you're not already. And I'll be back very soon. But until next time, enjoy yourself. It's later than you think. Bye.
If you like what you